And welcome back. It is Friday night. Welcome back to the Average Boys Podcast. It's your boy ChrisP. I'm here with my boy Brian. What is up, Brian?
Yo, ChrisP, what's going on? Yes, everyone, it's your boy Brian D, one half of the Gym Class Majors podcast with my boy D Vargas, and I'm here with my boy ChrisP on the Average Boys Podcast. Chris, what's going on, buddy?
Chilling, man, chilling. Trigger,
All
man, it's
right.
good to see you in the comments, man.
Triggs was good.
Triggs is already in the comments, man. He hit us up when the video
Ready
started.
to go.
Yeah,
Let's
everything's
go,
been going
Triggs.
pretty good right now. We got a little bit of rain weather, which is nice for the valley to have.
That blows.
It's not too bad. A little bit of thunder and lightning and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, you've been here before. The valley does need this kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, man. It's I don't know how you guys do it. I say it every time, man. I don't know how you guys do it out there, man.
It's
But more
rough,
power
brother.
to you guys out there, man.
Yeah, but overall, it's been a pretty fantastic week. I got to do, of course, Anime Fiesta, which was the con that we did last week. Ramsey Ramirez, a good friend of mine, hosted a great event.
How was it?
Congratulations to him and his soon wife, Marlevi. But what was really crazy is they had over 9,000 people show up to this event.
Yeesh.
Yeah, and it's because what was crazy is there were some rules that were in effect that a lot of people were kind of slightly against.
Okay.
But with that, even when I saw Ramsey and I congratulated him for the huge success of the show, he was like, I didn't even anticipate this many. There were so many people that were complaining against him, like in comments and hate mail and all this other stuff, that he actually thought that he was probably going to get like 3,000 to 5,000, maybe 7,000, but over 9,000 people is amazing. What is up? So here we go. Trigger saying, bro, Dragon Warrior Noodles was lit. I wouldn't doubt it.
I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that.
So what's cool is Triggs is now working at Dragon Warrior Noodle, which is a really prominent ramen studio in McAllen, Texas, which is a really nice thing. And a lot of course, when it comes to conventions, of course, you have a lot of like the Western inspiration, of course, the anime, of course, being that the show itself is called Anime Fiesta. A lot of people like to go and, of course, hit up, the Chinese restaurants and the Asian inspired restaurants. And one of the major ones is, of course, Dragon Warrior Noodle. So shout out to them.
That's awesome.
What was cool is Triggs got some plans going on for the end of the month, and we might be out there helping him out. Me and my friend Christella might be helping him out for some really cool stuff that they're planning. It'll be creative. They get it going on, and of course, can't wait. Of course, you guys saw it in the intro. We have our sponsor, Harlingen Fan Convention. Shout out to Pete Martinez. Big shout out on the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse, which is probably never going to happen, but shout out to him for it. Super exciting. We're going to have Ray Fisher, Cyborg from Justice League, of course, the Snyder cut, and of course the Whedonverse, the MCU for the DCU. We also have John Wesley Shipp, which is the Jay Garrett of the Flash CW TV show, which I'm super excited to meet. I am a big fan of his old Flash TV show, which of course it went a year, but they were so revolutionary on what they were trying to produce on television at the time that, it's hard to do superhero shows rather than a movie. So for them to be doing it back in the late 90s, the Flash TV show with Mark Hamill being the trickster and stuff like that, the original Barry Allen. And then not only that, for the CW to respect that show enough to bring it back during the Elseworld crossover, that was so cool to see John Wesley come back as the 90s Barry Allen Flash, him have some really great talking points and all that stuff. What's up, Eels, man? Hope you're doing good. Up in the comments. Robert, what's going on, my dude? And anybody out there else watching us in the radio waves. We have some really cool stuff coming up. So I'll be out there. Brian's still up in Jersey, so I don't know if he'll be able to make it. Maybe Triggs might be able to go out there with me, help me out if he's down for the Harlingen Fan Convention, November 6th and 7th. Of course, we get to interview all the different people that are going to be showing up, the Power Rangers. We have that wrestler guy, the big guy, Rayback, dude. You know who that is?
Oh, Ryback. Yeah.
Ryback's going to be out there. So he's going to be one of the people that's a guest. Do you know any backstory on that dude or no?
Yeah, I do. He had a really good run a couple years back. He's got a little bit of a bad image with the other boys in the locker room, but I mean, for what it's worth, man, he had a really good run, And yeah, just like Edgar said, "Feed me more." That was his line. And actually, he started off as a face, which is, for anybody that's listening, a face is like a good guy. But then he quickly turned into a heel, which is a bad guy, and I liked him more as the bad guy, as the heel.
Oh,
And
okay, so he
things,
did really good as a villain.
yeah, he was really good as a villain, and you know, he had a really good run at WWE.
Okay, that's very cool. But yeah, man, we got some really great guests that are going to be coming to Harlingen Fan Convention. We have two Power Rangers, Kathleen Sutherland and Nakai Burrise. I think it's Burrise. They were
Okay.
both in Zeo, which was one of the, of course, future variations of the Power Ranger show, not a part of the original cast. But if I'm not mistaken, Catherine Sutherland, which is a Pink Ranger from the future shows, she ends up being the original Pink Ranger. She ends up donning the original Pink Ranger suit.
Oh,
She
nice.
had 3 iterations of the Pink Ranger outfit that were pretty rad, man, to be able to
Yeah.
kind of like do that kind of cool stuff. The one that I'm kind of excited and it's very weird is Jonathan Lipnicki. Do you remember the kid from he was from that I think Toby Maguire, which was the fucking Tom Cruise movie. Remember, he's like a manager for sports teams.
Oh, Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, well, that he had a little kid in that movie that had glasses,
Yeah,
real
yeah, I know.
nerdy
Yeah,
looking.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that kid is gonna be coming to fan convention.
Nice, nice.
Yo, do you know, like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, this kid is ripped to shit now.
No shit.
He's huge as fuck, but he's a Muay Thai kickboxer.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude, and he's got some matches under his belt that the dude is like, he doesn't mess around. He
Wow.
trained under he trained under a really famous Muay Thai kickboxing coach from down here. I can't remember off the top of my name, but really prominent Muay Thai kickboxing coach. We also have one of the characters from Resident Evil, a voice actress, Stephanie Panicello, which would be
Okay.
cool. I mean, we even have some from The Last Airbender and My Hero Academia, which, oh, you know what? And we're bringing in Gorilla Grodd, dude. Oh, he was
Okay.
in Stuart Little. Yeah, Jonathan Lipnicki
Stuart
was in
Litter.
Stuart Little.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was with
Jerry
the mouse
Maguire.
and shit, which is so wild to see someone like in those really cute natures and then see him later on like
Ripped
just
to shreds,
kicking the
just
shit
whooped
out of
somebody
people, dude.
ass. It's
So yeah,
crazy.
that's really fucking cool, dude. I'm really excited. We're gonna be setting up our podcasts there, so we'll
Okay.
be able to do some really cool. I don't know if we're gonna be doing like par se, like the way we do our podcasts here. I think more than likely, of course, for sure, we're gonna do our podcast in studio, if I'm not mistaken, here at my house, of course, because I have my studio set up here. I want to check the date real quick for the 6th and the 7th. Yeah, it's a Saturday and a Sunday. So for sure, we'll do the our Friday shows at night, normal, just like the way we always do. And then Sunday, of course, I'll be going over there and setting up. What's up, Pete? What's going on? We're actually talking. Actually, Pete, right now we are talking about Harlingen Fan Convention. That's the man right there, the man, the legend right there, Pete. So we'll be setting up on that Saturday over there, bringing, of course, guests to do interviews and stuff like that. I want to get small little videos of Brian asking me questions to ask the interviewees also. But we
So
should be
down
setting
for
up
that.
some really cool event style Q&As for the event with some of the actors and stuff like that. Me and Pete have kind of like had these really cool ideas that we're bouncing each other off. And it's going to be a great show. I mean, like I said, we just came off of a really prominent anime fiesta show. A lot of people showed up. The entire community came out in troves. It was very nice. It's good to see people excited to be at conventions again. That was such a great thing. So we're hoping that people are able to get out to Harlingen Fan Convention. We're really excited. Restore the Snyderverse, Pete. Don't forget. And there's some really cool stuff. Down here in the valley, we have this thing called, I don't know if maybe I'm dumb, but do you guys up in Jersey have a humane society, which is for the pets and stuff?
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Is that like
Same thing.
the official name of it?
Yeah, it's like the
Okay, cool. Because I didn't know if it was like maybe just the thing that, like the company name down here. I didn't know it was kind of like a government thing or whatever. But yeah, we'll have the Humane Society out there. They'll be,
nice.
having the puppies out and getting people to kind of like hopefully do some adopting. And then we also have this thing called, I want to say like a Jurassic Park dinosaur exhibit where you get guys dressed up in dinosaur outfits. And
Oh, that's where I would be at.
Yeah,
That's where
dude.
you'd be able to find me. The
Pete
guys
hit
that
up these guys, and these guys were like, "Yeah, man, we'll set up over there." And so they're gonna have the Jurassic Park dinosaur exhibit there set up for people. It's gonna be fantastic. They're even talking about super crazy. Uh, we have a band down here. It's a friend of mine's band. He plays a lot of like retro Nintendo and
Mhm.
Super Nintendo NES games, but he makes them in like metal.
I saw that. I think you put up a
Dude,
post. Yeah, it was
those guys,
awesome.
Sonic Boom, shout out to
Yeah,
Joshua.
yeah.
Like, they're super good. They're a fun band. They tried to get them for the show, but I think right now they're going to be touring again. They just got off of a tour. Joshua did, but I think they're going to be touring again. But I overheard that they got some really great ideas for like a really crazy outdoor event, which I'm super excited for, like a band to be playing for people that are waiting outside. So like the thing about it is when you go to conventions and stuff like that, literally everything is usually just on the inside.
Mhm.
You know, you have to get in the door for you to start entertaining or
Enjoy
doing
it.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but Pete's kind of like, hey, you know what? Like, let me bring some of that entertainment outside.
It's
So when
very
people are
smart.
waiting or they're doing stuff, let me bring them some entertainment. And yeah, I think it's a super great idea. I think it's super considerate to the people that are out there waiting in the sun and doing all that stuff. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully we're trying to see if we can get some like food trucks and all this other stuff out there too. So, you know, I'm super excited. Harlingen Fan Convention is going to be really, really great. I am uber excited, of course, to just be out
It
there.
sounds
I
like a
love the
dope
convention
time.
scene and all that stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a
But
dope time.
yeah, man. So what else do we got going on?
Nothing much, man. I mean, over here in New Jersey, the weather has been just fucking nuts. It's been like 85, 90 degrees out here, bro. Like, I don't know. Like, is
Oh
there
shit.
a such thing? Well, I mean, I know you guys really don't have many like seasons,
Yeah, we
but
don't get seasonal changes. Right?
yeah, over here, bro, like it's like there's no more fall. It's literally from summer, you might get like 1 week of fall, and then we're gonna go straight into winter. Like it's
Oh, okay.
super fucking weird over here. But yeah, other than that, man, I mean, I got a new job.
Congratulations, brother. I saw
No,
that.
just got a new job. So
What are you guys
starting
gonna be
that,
doing? What are you gonna be doing now?
still gonna be doing I'm still gonna be in the same profession, just gonna be in a different location. It's
Okay.
actually gonna be closer to my house. So that is super, super, super great. But that's it. Other than that, it's been a very long week, man. Just ready to talk
Talk some
some nerd
nerdy
shit
stuff,
with
right?
you. Yeah, man. Let's
Yeah, I'm
go.
super excited. I'm always super excited to talk nerdy stuff. So this week has been, of course, we talked about it, of course, off comments, off on our own. It's been
Mhm.
a slow week, man, when it comes to like, you know, we're coming off of course, the what if storyline. I know that of course a lot of people out on the YouTube channels are talking about some things that happened in the DC world. We'll get into that a little bit later. Um, there was some really interesting releases that were very hush hush that didn't get a lot of advertisement, a lot of push. I know you mentioned one, which was the Injustice animated film.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
it came out, right? It's out already, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so I have HBO Max, but I'm super confused all the time on how HBO Max does this because they have the DC entertainment channel on inside the HBO Max application.
Yes.
And the only one that they got so far right now that's for the newest releases for animated films is The Longest Halloween, right? Part one
Okay.
and part
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
which if you haven't seen it, take the time. It is an amazing animated film. It's a great show. It's a great, of course, retelling of the story and introduction of Two-Face, Harvey Dent. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth the experience. It's a 1 and 2 film. And it's on HBO Max right now. But I have been anticipating the moment for them to release Injustice on HBO Max, and I didn't know it wasn't going to come out there. So I think it's only going to be available for renting, right? And I just don't know where. I'm guessing I could probably rent it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, normally you'll be able to get anything on Amazon. You just have to pay it's just a paywall to buy it. But yeah, you should be able to get it on. I'm looking up right now where exactly we can tell people to watch it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you're gonna wanna, you can almost bet that that Amazon, like the Amazon Prime or whatever, you'll be able to watch it there.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things like that's where I actually saw the first of The Longest Halloween. And then I really didn't want to purchase the second one because I don't know, it just felt weird to purchase or rent something online again. It's just so weird
Uh-huh.
to rent. I guess at the time I was kind of like, well, I'm already paying for HBO Max. You know, they released King Kong, they released Mortal Kombat. and DC is just not gonna release Injustice. Like, come on, man. But it is what it is. I know DC has to make their money, and their animated movies never kind of fall short. They're always pretty great. So I don't mind spending the money when it comes to those films. But
Mhm.
I was happy that it didn't take too long to get the longest Halloween on HBO Max. I just want to know when it's going to probably come out on the Injustice movie. But if you haven't heard, the Injustice story is a very, very interesting story, and it's very well worth the watch, especially since it's in animated form. The story, of course, Snyder wanted to do his own variation in the films, which I 100% didn't believe it was falling. It was giving it justice when it was coming out, like with the way he was kind of like explaining it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to take away from his image. I know as an artist, he does an amazing job. The Snyderverse was, of course, a great retelling of the Justice League film. All the cuts were off, and it was great. I just didn't like the way it was going in his storytelling wise. But to see it come out in animated form, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. The animated films do kind of tweak it a little bit
Mhm.
in some ways, but I'm really excited to see where they go. It's
So just to I don't mean to cut you off, but
Go
just
for it.
so that everyone knows, it's actually not out yet. It's coming out on the 18th.
Oh,
You
cool.
will be able to find it on Amazon Prime, Google Play, and HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So it's
you have
gonna
a
come out on
couple of
the 18th.
different options for you to check it out. But yeah, if anybody gets a chance, check it out, man. I mean, I know I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna be definitely
Hell
high on
yeah.
my watch list. So
It'd be
yeah,
something. It'd be a cool thing to kind of review. We talk about it here on the show, see what they do, see how they go and take the show.
absolutely.
Um, it'd be great. I think I'm a really big fan of the Injustice storyline. I think a lot of people are. I
Yeah,
think the video games kind of brought it a lot of people that didn't read the comic book about it, but kind of like got to see the breakdown of it. And that's
yeah,
because if I'm not mistaken, the video game kind of also tweaks the game in a little way too, or
yeah.
actually tweaks the series really well.
It does. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so it'll be really cool to check it out an animated film. What's something else? The other one that really really caught me was I finally got to sit down and I had the opportunity to watch Bright, a Samurai Soul.
Yeah, we were talking about that not too long ago.
Mhm.
Tell me, how'd you like it?
So it was fantastic, dude. It was well worth the time to sit down and watch it. Netflix did an amazing job bringing in an aspiring artist, an animated artist, and
Uh-huh.
it was pretty good, man. It was really, really solid. Of course, like if you haven't seen it, there's a movie called Bright
Hmm.
that came out, I want to say like 3 years ago, 2 years ago,
With Will
with
Smith,
Will
right?
Smith. Yeah, Will
I do
Smith. And
remember
it's
on
very
Netflix.
weird because he's playing a cop and his partner is a like an ogre, like a blue and grayish ogre. It's really weird
Yeah,
because the world consists of minotaurs and fairies and all of this stuff.
yeah,
And at first, when you're watching it, you're kind of like, this is dumb. But then you realize that there's a really, really broad, you don't really get it until the you see the Minotaur walking in the streets. There's like a scene where like a Minotaur is like walking around kind of like without a shirt and he's just being weird and Will Smith is trying to calm him down.
yeah, yeah,
That there is a really rich history in this storyline. And it's almost in the idea of like if the Lord of the Rings had years that was the history and it got to like our timeline, like
yeah,
how
yeah,
would that world of the Lord of the Rings look?
yeah.
And you know what? Like Bright really
That's
hit it
what
on
it
the
be.
on the head for me, man.
Nice,
Bright really
nice.
hit it. So when I saw it, a lot of people didn't really care for it too much because it wasn't, their repertoire, but I thought it was refreshing to see something different.
Yeah,
And Will Smith, of course, amazing actor. Whenever it comes to like the Bad Boys or cop movies where he gets to play like a police officer, he
hmm,
never drops the ball. Like he plays them so well.
hits it right
And
out
in
the
that
park.
movie, he brings the street cop to life with an ogre, and it is great. It is super great.
Nice. So you would definitely recommend it to anyone that's
Yeah,
listening.
Bright the movie, I recommend it. I
Okay.
think me and Trigger talked about it once on the show or twice, or maybe it was a little bit before him when I had John Man on the show. But I remember talking about it, and a lot of people were kind of like, "Nah, I didn't really like it too much or whatever." And I was like, "You got to give it a chance, man. You got to like sit down and just take it for what it is. It's got to be a day that you got to just watch a movie that you have no idea what.
That you have no, yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah,
take a
you have
chance.
just no have no
Just
idea, no
take a
idea what it's
chance.
going to be about.
Yeah,
You have no
yeah.
idea. So sitting down and watching Bright was great. Now coming back to it and watching the movie Bright, A Samurai Soul, it was very interesting because there was a lot of things that I guess in my mind I forgot about the film. I forgot about the original movie.
Okay.
And it does have a lot of correlation with where the movie picks up. But of course, it kind of gives you a background into like what this artifact in the film is called the wand, right?
Okay. Okay.
The wand is literally what it sounds like. It's a small little dagger looking item that glows blue. There are people in the world, usually elves, that can wield the wand to kind
Okay.
of like have infinite powers of the world or whatever. But usually it's people that are super randomized. Like they don't really like you can't really tell who's going to be a wand wielder.
Okay.
Like who's going to be able to do it. And anybody else that grabs it just gets instantly demolished by the wand.
No shit.
Yeah, so it's really really crazy. So they give reference to because what it is so the elf like clan is usually the clan of people that can wield the wand. Is there humans and ogres that can do it? I believe so, but they have to be of the light. It's a very weird, like spiritual essence that only the brights can see the people that can wield it.
Okay.
But they can see the essence and the aura of the person. It's either dark if they're evil and white, a white light if they're good.
Sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super like, you know, like it does have its mythology, which is very, very cool because again, this is coming off of, you know, an original storyline. You know, something that we don't know really have anything to back off of it, like, you know, like really like catch resource off, but it was captivating enough that the lure that was brought into the samurai story, like it really correlates with the film very well. And it does kind of give a really good history of maybe this is Netflix's way of creating like a timeline of how the wand is going to get there in the Bright movie.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, because
Now,
the
is
wand
this
kind of like appears.
is this like a movie or is this like a series on Netflix?
Oh, okay. So
Samurai?
the Samurai Soul is just a one-off animated
Okay.
series.
It's
It's
just
just
an
a
animated
one-off
series.
animated film.
Okay. Okay.
And the action is very great. The character development is very, very cool. It kind of correlates with the film because the characters are almost identical to the way it was with the Will Smith show.
Yep.
It's one human, one ogre, and an elf that's like a child, but of course she's of adult age, I believe, but she's just elves are a lot smaller in size. There is a lot of like tribal essence to the way the ogres are. And of course, the like in that community, just like the way it is in the Bright movie, the ogres are kind of like shunned upon, you know, just like in the tribal communities of like our culture where we have certain people in our lives that are kind of like shunned on. You know what I mean? There's parts in it where like the ogre is trying to rent a room for them to have shelter for the night. And like the people that are talking to him are like holding their noses because like they're trying to say he smells or whatever, but like, you know, he's a normal.
So they're the black people in this universe.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the essence of it, I guess.
I'm joking.
But
I'm joking.
it's different because it's, you know, it was the same thing when it came to Native Americans.
Yeah.
Same thing when it came to Hispanics. Same thing when it came to Mexicans when they were dealing during the Mexican American War. It was that whole Western cowboy era where like there were people out there that were a lot more aggressive in that nature, and they didn't mind showing it out in public that they would be that way.
Gotcha.
So like with the ogres, it's very bad the way that they treat them. And yeah, I guess you could say it was like, I guess during like the civil rights movement for the African American culture in our world, you know, the segregation part and all that stuff, it would be very much like that situation. So yeah, man, it does, and it doesn't do it in a bad satire.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that's what's great. I mean, we always kind of like touch on this where we feel like a lot of stuff is forced. But like with this one, it doesn't feel forced. Like when you're watching it, you can literally be behind it and say, hey, you know what? Like, man, I feel bad for that dude. Like, but even though like they're treating him badly, like he's still super respectful.
But are like the ogres badass at least? Like if you're gonna give me that part, as long as
there's a part of the film where they're running from, you know, certain people or whatever, they're trying to get away. And they run across like this little creek, like they could literally run across the creek if they wanted to. Like it's that small. But there's a little like piece of like a log, like a big ass tree log that's there to run across it. And the ogre is, you know, holding on to the girl and he's trying to cross and he falls in the water and throws the girl. And like in that process, he just stands up and it's like waist deep.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, well, you guys go, I'm gonna do this. And he picks the log up and just throws it.
Just throws it. Nice.
Yeah, he's super strong, dude. And his weapon is super big. Like you know, it's a really great movie. It showcases the power behind the ogre. He's like the power, like that fucking tank that's in the squad when you're playing like League of Legends or you're playing like fucking Skyrim or whatever, and you got that one big ass dude that's carrying like huge weapons and shit.
Yeah,
like he plays that character, but in great writing and storytelling factor, he's got such a humble soul, and he's very like protective of the child. Like for some reason he feels compelled to be protective of her. So there's not a what I didn't like is there wasn't enough storytelling about the characters, like a back 12 story into the ogre.
Okay.
So like I kind of wanted it to be more, because he kind of like he starts off, it feels like his story is very fast paced. Like it's very just pushed in the front. Like you have to accept it because he's an ogre and that's the way their culture is.
And that's just it. Yeah. Okay.
Where the main character, the samurai guy, his backstory is just a little bit more like driven.
Mm-hmm.
But they do write it the same way that they do most animes when it comes to like the mysterious samurai, where his history is like shrouded in small glimpses of like an event that happened in the past, right?
Yeah.
Where he gets like cut and he's got like an eye and you know, and the shadowy figure and that's his past. So they do kind of delve into that a little bit when it comes to his character, but the ogre I feel didn't get that enough. I feel like there needs to be more, especially from the Bright film. So like in the Bright film, I remember there was something about the ogre that he had that all the other ogres didn't like about him. They kind of like shunned him, who was an ogre also.
The outcast of the ogre.
Yeah, he was the outcast of their crew. But and I don't know if it was because his tooth was broken, because that was another thing that they did in this film.
Okay.
His tooth had been broken, and like the tooth is very similar to like the samurai with the top knot when they cut it and you're not accepted by your village.
Okay, yeah.
Like it's very much like that. So you know what? Yes, I do remember. He filed his teeth down.
Okay.
Because the one in the film decided to be a police officer, and he didn't want his husks to be showing, because that's like you're a gangster and you're a fucking piece of shit or whatever, like you're just a violent ogre. And since he filed them down,
he conformed to
it shows that he's reformed. And when he did that, the other ogres were like, well, fuck you, man, you shaved your files,
you're not one of us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a really great story when it comes to that. You remember what we were talking about, like when we're saying like there's the ostracizing of characters and you know the like the discriminating against stuff like that. Like there are some stories that do it and they just throw it out there and it feels very rushed.
Yeah.
This one, it kind of like it has its meaning, it has its purpose. Everything has a little small thing behind it. So like in this story, this ogre does something similar with his tooth to kind of prove that he's willing to be a part of the team. And it kind of gives you like, oh, well, like I guess that idea of the dude filing his tooth, it has some history.
It's got like a symbolic
culture. It's symbolism in their culture. And I thought it was an awesome additive to the series, the Bright story that Netflix is telling. I thought the animation was very well done. At first, it's very blocky when you're watching it, but with the more you kind of like get into it, you see the vibrant colors and all the other stuff. You kind of get used to it.
Okay.
I give it at least a high 9 out of 10. Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Holy shit.
I mean, especially coming off of like, you know, we just had the Star Wars Visions situation happen with the anime stories and stuff like that. You know, when we were watching that, they were so fast that I feel like we didn't get our real like anime, like we didn't get our get when it comes to some samurai shit.
It didn't have enough bite to it, right?
Yeah. So seeing another show come out where it's doing the animation and all that good stuff, I thought it did fairly well. I thought it did very good. If anybody gets the opportunity and you have Netflix, check out Bright, A Samurai Soul. It is awesome. That's the title of it. I forgot to click it. Look at me, man. I forgot to click it.
No, I dropped the ball. I should have reminded you on that one. Okay.
Yeah, it is super worth it. You guys need to check it out. It's super great. So that was the last thing that I got to see. Of course, we have My Hero Academia, the movie that's coming out. That's another great film that's going to be coming in. We had the drop for Demon Slayer episode 1, which kind of correlates with Rengoku, which is the guy that they came out in Mugen Train, which was the film that they released this past year for Demon Slayer, which is this guy that has like fire looking hair. Really cool character. It's him about to take off on the train. And then, of course, the train is the film that just happened. Yeah, it's really cool, man. The world of animation. We just had of course, the ending of season 1 for Tokyo Revengers, which is, of course, another great series. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go out there and check out Tokyo Revengers. That one will be on Funimation, and I believe HBO Max, I think, has it also. Yeah. What else is going on? What else we got? So, oh yeah, you mentioned they did casting recently for Marvel, right?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone's heard or if you've heard, but they did cast Adam Warlock for the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and it is none other than Will Poulter. Anyone that is unfamiliar with Will Poulter, he is a up and coming actor. You might have seen him in what is that? I think it's like a National Lampoon's movie that he
Oh
was
yeah,
in.
you all
Uh,
got paid or whatever.
yeah, that honestly that was a very underrated movie actually because no, yeah, it was called We're the Millers. So yeah, he was in that. He was in The Maze Runner. He was in Narnia. He was in a few really good movies that I became a fan of, and now he is your new Adam Warlock in the MCU. Chris, what do you think of that casting as Will Poulter as Adam Warlock?
I mean, okay, so Will Poulter, he's done some amazing stuff in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
He's a great actor. I think he doesn't get enough opportunity to really go out there and do some really, really crazy stuff. He never gets the main thing, right?
Yeah.
I think getting the opportunity to play an Adam Warlock is really going to give him the opportunity to kind of like express himself a lot more,
Okay.
and really show that he's available to do a lot of great things. This kid came out he's had some really good shows. The Narnia, what is it?
Yeah.
Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yep.
Can he pull this off? I 100% think he can.
Okay.
Adam, the thing is like Adam Warlock's character is such a weird character, and I don't know if you guys remember. Okay, so the people that are making Adam Warlock, I can't never remember the race of their names, which are the characters that are. Let me look that up real quick. Guardians 2. Yeah, and then I'll click on the actress. Shit, I don't even know if I'll find this. Oh yeah, she plays Aisha.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know the name. I don't remember the race. The race.
There are a certain race of people, right? But the way that they make these people are super like cookie cutter, like douchebags.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing is, of course, like when you look at this kid and you have to imagine the idea of this guy playing like a cookie cutter douchebag. I 100% this guy I think he has like enough like of that dry, like he can kind of be like that dry humor, which is very funny. His face is so like funny. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like he does comedy very well. Like that's the easiest way to put it. He does comedy exceptionally well.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can find. I want to find out what I think it's something with an E. Yeah, let me see. Guardians Express.
The
'Cause
Golden
it's
High
so
Princess.
crazy.
Yeah, it's just the Sovereign, right? It's
The
called
Sovereign, right? That's the name of
Sovereign.
their people.
Yeah.
The thing is they were a different race in the comic books, right?
Mhm.
But the concept is you have this character, Adam Warlock, who, when he's created, he's kind of created to be like the perfect engineered person,
Yes.
which is very similar to the way the Celestials made the Eternals.
Mhm.
Which, if you break it down, there is a lot of characteristic similarities to Adam Warlock and the Eternals. But Adam Warlock is in the comic book literally Space Jesus.
It's a
Like that's the
total
easiest way
badass.
to put him.
Yeah.
He is hyper strong. He has a healing factor. When he does reach a certain amount of damage per se, because even though he has a healing factor, which is strong as shit, he can still take in an abnormal amount of damage. He ends up going into a cocoon's life state, which is the way it is in Guardians of the Galaxy. where you see his cocoon in part
Yep.
part 2. He goes into that state and he's casually reborn. So in a way, even if you break it down, his story and his character creation is very similar to the way that they run the Eternals, where the Eternals are immortal, but if you damage their human bodies enough, they just get reborn in the machine later.
Okay.
Which is their ship that they live on. It just kind of like, it's very similar, super similar to the way they're running the X-Men comic books for Krakoa and all that stuff, where even when the X-Men's die, there are 5 mutants called the Five that bring people back to life with their consciousness and all that other stuff. But of course, in psychology, we always talk about that in the sense of like the portal philosophy, right? Which is if I have a portal and I want to teleport you from one to the other, if one portal demolecularizes you and destroys your atoms and then sends it to the new one, is your consciousness still the same one? Like, is it us looking through our eyes still doing it, or is it like a whole brand new soul that has all our memories and all our consciousness, like all of it embedded in it's something else that's living in our state?
Okay. It's a very interesting. I get it. I just never heard anybody, bring that up. That's a very interesting point of view.
Yeah, because that then goes against, of course, the idea of the human of the soul, right?
Yeah.
Because if you destroy this body to create an exact copy of it somewhere else, the consciousness, the person experiencing life themselves, would technically be destroyed here and not come back in this one. Technically, the idea would be, technically.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, John? How we doing in Corpus, man?
What's up, John? I don't know if I subscribe to that. I think, your physical form is the one that's teleporting. It's not your soul, your consciousness.
Yeah.
It's
the soul idea.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
That's an interesting concept because you would consider like
it's a good conversation.
Like then in essence of that idea, every time you teleport, that person that's being teleported, do they feel all of that pain? And then when you teleport them back to that position and then that person's reborn, all they remember is, of course, being born and nothing before that. So like every time you teleport, like, are you killing someone in the process? And then just copying them and sending them somewhere else is fucking wild to think about.
Yeah. So
absolutely. Like, that's where I think my opinion is, of course, I always tell you this. I'm always a really big fan of great storytelling and
of course
creating these really weird mind fucks that really make the audience think. And my opinion is, I really hope that that's what in the comic books for the X-Men that they're doing, is that every time the person dies and they sacrifice themselves and they bring this consciousness back, there's something that's not right about it. And every time that it goes, like there's something missing about that person, real like duplicity.
It's a fucking awesome concept. And then like that last time, that was one time too many. Now they're like soulless, or now they're like
pretty much. Exactly my point. Like they've been teleported so much that they almost don't have a comprehension of how the original one thought or logically came to terms.
Gotcha.
Right. So, that's always been my biggest, like I said, like storytelling is my biggest thing. But going back to Adam Warlock, I'm sorry, that was an off conversation subject. That's very, what is it? What was that? Futurama kind of mentality right there.
Hell yeah.
My thing is, Adam Warlock is a very, very interesting character in the comic books. He's very much like a Carol Danvers, but in the essence that people do like Adam Warlock compared to Carol Danvers.
That was going to be my question. Do you think that there's going to be an appetite for an Adam Warlock in the MCU? Like, do you think people are going to want to look for a movie that has him in it? Because you're getting Will Poulter. This is not like some low level
some random dude
or some random guy. Like you're like, this is telling me that this is not going to be a one-off. This guy may be a recurring character. Do you think there is a place in the MCU for a recurring Adam Warlock?
So we had the opportunity to kind of discuss this because my biggest concern is, of course, during the week on our podcast page here on Facebook, I posted up, does any of the comic book knowers, and I quoted knowers, know what the fuck they're going to do with Adam Warlock in the fucking movie. And the reason why I say that, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody out there who's a fan of Adam Warlock. If you're a fan of Adam Warlock, then you're probably really excited to see him come to terms, but you're very disappointed with the time that they're releasing because there's no Thanos. Like literally, Adam Warlock was the trump card against Thanos. What Doctor Strange did in Infinity Wars and an Endgame, where he planned everything out, that was Adam Warlock that did that. And that's where a lot of people are like, man, Adam Warlock's a dick, dude. Because he literally is like super far away from the battlefield. And he's using all of the different Marvel characters as elements like chess pieces. Sending in the X-Men, sending in Captain America, sending in Thor, sending in the Silver Surfer. Like everyone plays a role in the chess game to beat Thanos.
Yeah.
And Adam Warlock's kind of like, look, you're just going to do what I tell you because you need to forfeit your life because everyone else in the universe matters more than us at this moment. If you're heroes, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And he kind of doesn't put it that way, but he just tells them like they need to follow him.
Yeah.
And then 100%, like you see all the Guardians and all the X-Men and all the Avengers start getting fucking tanked by Thanos in like the worst way possible.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, the worst possible death in the MCU was not in the MCU. It was in the comic books. And I always thought that Cyclops' death in the Infinity Gauntlet was the worst death I had ever seen in a comic book as a kid. He is partnered up with Captain America. Captain America, attack him here, attack him there. Him and Scott Summers of Cyclops are very, very well versed in strategy when it comes to being on a battlefield. They're team captains for a reason. So he gets Storm to attack Thanos, and he gets, Jean Grey and all these persons. And all of a sudden, Cyclops comes out and he starts blasting him with his optic laser. And Thanos is like, oh, man, good job, buddy, but not anymore. And he puts a box of, I don't even remember the material. It's that shit that they encase dinosaurs in, that orange shit.
Okay, like amber.
But it's super strong, dude. And he puts it around Cyclops' head, and he starts trying to blast out of this like glass case that's around his head. And he can't blast it because it's like literally like you can't break it. You just can't break it. So he's just shooting. He falls to the ground because he's suffocating. And Captain America is there with his shield trying to break the glass so he can at least breathe. Not shoot anymore, but just breathe.
Just breathe,
he suffocates to death at the feet of Captain America, who's trying to save his life. And you can see like just his face because it's just glass. And he just dies. And Captain America turns around and points at Thanos, and he's like, "You killed him." And Thanos is like, "Yeah."
That was
and
the
he's
point.
like, no, you killed him. Like you didn't have to do that. You could have slapped him. You could have thrown him or teleported into another part of the world, but you killed him. And Thanos is like, oh, Captain America, God's righteous right-hand man or whatever. And then Captain America tries to punch him, which is very similar to the way in the movie when he grabs his finger. Remember? And Thanos is like, oh, Cap. And he slaps him and he breaks his neck and kills Captain America with a backhand.
Good job.
So like it is violent, dude. And oh man, it's such a crazy story. But like that was Adam Warlock's biggest game in that, which was that he was there to stop Thanos. He was there to trump Thanos because Thanos was like this hyper intelligent person.
Yeah.
So to stop a person with something as strong and infinite as the Infinity Gauntlet with the stones, you needed someone that was logical to 100%, that could sacrifice and think to the smallest minute situation and still be able to win.
Okay, so let me ask you a question before you continue. So let's just say let's just theorize for 1 second, right? We don't have a Thanos anymore, right? So barring that they bring Thanos back for whatever reason to face or to have an opponent for Adam Warlock, where do you see them using him? Like there has to be a certain person of that caliber of a threat to where they can justify using or bringing in a character like Adam Warlock. Where would you personally write a story for Adam Warlock to?
What's up, D? How's it going? These are the comments. That's a good question. That's a really, really good question. So I have two theories just on this action. One, I'll get it out in the open. They're gonna make it to where they bring back Thanos.
Okay.
Like they somewhat bring back Thanos. There is a pretty interesting comic book in the that went on for a while called the Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is the thing that Thor makes fun of.
Yeah.
And in that process, you have Beta Ray Bill, you have Cosmic Ghost Rider. You have a bunch of interesting characters. I don't know if Adam Warlock's a part of it. I can't think of that off the top of my head. Probably was. But in that aspect, when Thanos dies in the cosmic landscape, he leaves a will.
Mm-hmm.
And in that will, he leaves his brother Star Fox, because Thanos has a brother.
Who is rumored to come into the MCU.
Yeah, he's rumored. I heard a rumor that he might come out in the Eternals.
Eternals.
Yeah, because he's an Eternal, right? So it'd be interesting for him to bring him back. But that Thanos kind of leaves a will and testament, and he's leaving like his armies and all that other stuff to someone in the cosmos.
Okay.
Only to find out that Thanos left like a piece of his consciousness in his brother Star Fox. And he takes over his body, and they're trying to get his body back so that they could bring Thanos back to life.
So they could bring Thanos back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an interesting concept.
Okay.
So we can say that in the comic books, Marvel has always been like, hey, well, you know what? Thanos sells comics. We can't just kill him off. We need to bring him back to life somehow. That's kind of like the way the comic books work. So even in film, if a character can make money, they need to kill him off and then they'll bring him back to life, which is like the Iron Man story. Okay. So like, of course, like right now in the concept of the comics, we're all thinking how Iron Man's going to come back, which I don't understand where people would come. Like imagine watching any movie and then saying, oh, okay, so how are they going to bring that guy back?
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like one of the first things that people started thinking about. How's Tony Stark coming back?
Yeah.
So we can kind of come to terms with that's always a possibility. My other thing is the theory would be that they are bringing Adam Warlock.
Say it.
To stop Kang.
There it is.
Yeah. Now the reason why there's not a lot of stories when it comes to Adam Warlock versus Kang, and the reason why I say that is because Kang is just a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just a time traveling dude that's got some really strong stuff from the future, and since we're cavemen to him, like our technology is just
primitive,
not at his level. Just especially he's in the 30-something century, we're in the 21st.
Yeah.
There's just no way. And Adam Warlock has had situations where he's dealt with variations of himself from the future coming back and trying to dominate the future, which if you know the comic books, there's a character named Magus whose name is Adam Magus, which is a future variation of himself that comes from the future and tries to dominate during there's this really crazy arc, which is like the Church of the Higher Evolutionary, or it's a really weird comic book. But nonetheless, you know, a bunch of people trying to take over the galaxy, and Adam Warlock's got to stop it. Adam Warlock, of course, works alongside the Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, which we are really excited to see him. And then, of course, with the idea that James Gunn, that this is probably his last film, there's also talks that Dave Bautista has talked about leaving the franchise when James Gunn leaves. Well, thank God I'm not a big fan of Dave Bautista. I think he sucks. So take him with you, James Gunn. He's done a good thing for Drax, but I mean, Drax is anybody can do Drax's role. Yeah, like literally, if you think about it, there's not a lot of acting chops for it. It's just a bunch of comedy that James Gunn's written in. The delivery of the jokes, Dave Bautista's done fairly well. You know, I'll give him that. You know, his acting chops have improved over the last couple of years. You know, you see him in a lot of stuff, but he gets typecasted way too much. He doesn't have the opportunity to really get out there and do something interesting, like in a romance film. I know he did that one that was like a daddy daycare film. Of course, but he's, you know, typecasted as the big dumb buffoon, you know, kind of like the way The Rock was. You know, he's kind of like on the same path as The Rock. And I guess The Rock's kind of giving him pointers on how to, you know, stay relevant in the acting realm and the acting world. So that way he doesn't not get work or whatever. But it's like The Rock. Like we want to see The Rock in like I'd like to see him in a serious film. You know, I'd like to see how he does like in a film where he's not portraying himself. You know what I mean? I want to see how he does. And I'm hoping that Shazam film really gives him the opportunity, because Shazam is such an interesting character when it comes to being a supervillain anti-hero.
I don't think I need that in my The Rock movie.
Well, I mean, this is just the concept of just seeing how he does as an actor, not as an action star. Okay. Because as an action star, like I said, like we expect him to be in a certain way, but then again, then he ends up doing films like Doom, which Doom sucked. But then
That's what
in
I'm
that,
saying. Like I've seen it. Like we've seen Doom. We've seen what was that mummy movie?
well, the Mummy
Um
Returns, wasn't it?
yeah,
Or the
it
Mummy
whatever
sequel
mummy
or
that was. Like
3 or something? The Mummy 3?
we've seen him in these semi-serious where he has to, and now granted these
Well, like, I
words
mean,
years ago, but I'm
you
just
look at
saying
Doom, right? Like,
give
let's
me
go.
one of those Fast and Furious. Give me that Dwayne Johnson
Oh,
and
dude, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
More
If you
action
haven't
than
beaten the shit
anything.
out of people, I'm good.
Yeah.
If you act
Give me that.
if you have him acting like if like okay, off subject, if you were to put The Rock in like Without Remorse with Michael B. Jordan,
Okay.
the Rainbow Six movie,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Tom Clancy one that came out on Amazon, I would watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah, that
You know, to see The
again.
Rock come
Yeah.
out in a film like that, where it's like, of course, or you know what, even easier, like those films with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel Jackson, where there is some
Oh,
comedy but like a very
the
good amount of
bodyguard's
work.
wife or the
Yeah, yeah.
bodyguard's
If you put him,
yeah,
there's another one called like
hitman.
6 Feet Under.
Uh-huh.
It was one of them that Ryan Reynolds did. That was him kind of like bringing together a bunch of people. Or you know what? Fuck that. Let's put The Rock in like a Smoking Aces movie.
You
Like, you know what I mean?
somehow it's like every
I
3
love
weeks
that
or
movie,
every 3 weeks or 4 weeks you find a way to bring up Smoking Aces, and
dude. It is.
I
I tell
love it.
people all the time.
Actually,
Yeah.
I love the fact that you do that. I love that movie too. So yeah.
Well, you know what? It's very similar, like the way I told you about the 13 Ghosts story.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain movies out there that do deserve a universe.
Yeah.
Smoking Aces to me is one of them, and that was like Hotel Artemis, which Dave Bautista came out in, and he
Yeah, yeah.
played a really interesting character too. You took him away, you got him, of course, being of course the big oaf or whatnot,
Mhm.
but he's looking at the arbitrary concept of death as like it's like so mundane that it doesn't even bother him when he has to throw a body away or whatever. He's just cleaning up dead bodies. So it's such a crazy film. But Hotel Artemis was in the same factor of Smoking Aces, and it was a great film if you haven't seen it. But Dave Bautista playing Drax, that character can literally be replaced by anybody, and that's what I think what's going to happen. I think they're going to bring in Adam Warlock's character, who has a very shallow sense of talking, kind of like the way that the Sovereign speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they're very full of themselves and cocky and like very.
Pretentious.
I kind of feel like they're going to remove Dave Bautista from that and then have Adam Warlock take his place.
Oh, okay. All right. I
Because
know what?
the
I
characters
don't
think
want
they're
that. I think I need Drax in the Guardians for me personally. I think I need him
well, I
at
mean,
this point.
there's nothing really left for Drax the Destroyer in the MCU. And what do I mean by that? Not nothing to the fact that the character has nowhere to go,
Mhm.
but in the storytelling of what Drax was created for, the reason why he's the Destroyer
It's for
is
Thanos.
because he was created specifically to destroy Thanos.
Yes.
Like, he was a human being, he was a saxophone player, he owned a bar, he died at the hands. I can't remember. It was a really interesting story, but I just don't remember enough because I'm not a big Drax like goer. But when they brought him back, they asked him if he wanted to come back to life. But the only way he was going to come back to life is if he accepted this position, which later on, I believe the comic book series was called the Thanos Initiative or something, where Drax does get the opportunity to shove his hand through Thanos and rip out his heart. Like, it was prophesized that was his thing. And I think it was very missed on the idea of knowing how big Thanos was of a threat in the universe for Drax to like casually not already have that prophecy a part of him in the MCU. Because, you know, they had it to where he was like, oh, Ronan killed my family, I'm going to get Ronan back, revenge. And then the Guardians all get together and they beat him with a dance off and the Infinity Stone and all this stuff. And then later on, they're like, Drax is like, yeah, Ronan was the little puppy, Thanos was the actual dude. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's kind of lame. Like, so now they took care of Thanos. When he sees Thanos, like, there's even, okay, so a really weird part of filmmaking is if someone gets a long line and the camera doesn't pan to them, I always feel like it's a very interesting thing that the director is using that character for that part. And there's a scene in Infinity War where they're holding Thanos down and they're about to take the gauntlet from him.
Yeah.
And Drax's character literally yells out, you know, we almost have it, hold on, or he says something. But it's like a line. he says it about Gamora because Peter Quill's asking about Gamora.
Okay.
And he's like, look at his face, like he doesn't even care. Like, what do you mean? You know, she's your Gamora. He says a really long line.
Yeah.
And they don't show him say it. They see you hear it off
screen.
shot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the same thing for you, but for me, like those kind of shots are always very weird because those people usually when they speak in a film, like the camera goes to get some type of reaction of them saying that and showing their emotional content, and then back to the person who's not speaking.
I think in that specific point, everyone's adrenaline is running so high because of the stakes that we were facing. I don't even think it even registered in my like that even registered to me because I'm so focused on getting this gauntlet off of. I'm so focused on this. I'm so focused on everyone and their job that it's very, very just in the back of my mind what anyone's saying. Just get this fucking gauntlet off. Like that's it. And I guess if I look back, if I watch it again, which is weird because I feel like I watched that movie a million
times and didn't notice that.
But yeah, if I pay attention now, then maybe I would feel some sort of way about it. Yeah.
Like for me, I'm very much on film continuity and things like that. Like things that they do kind of like, I mean, we were just talking about it earlier where like you could see me grabbing from all the different storylines and correlating and bringing it all together and being like, is that a possibility? Yeah, that could be a possibility. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, like that kind of makes sense. Like maybe that might work.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're talking about, Adam Warlock, fighting Kang the Conqueror instead. Like, the Loki show brought it into effect that Kang the Conqueror wasn't just some dude that was like going around conquering worlds. This dude was conquering galaxies and then multiverses and stuff. That's literally the equivalent to someone of a cosmic entity like Galactus.
Yeah.
And Adam Warlock, constantly fights, the higher evolutionaries and, he constantly fights a lot against the Celestials and Infinity and all of these people, the in-betweener, Chaos and the other dude, I forgot his name. All the cosmic entities that are with the Living Tribunal, he constantly is dwelling in the essence of the Living Tribunal.
Are you worried?
Go for it.
No, I was gonna say, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's something that just popped in my head. Are you worried about all these like OP characters showing up in the MCU?
So the thing is capping the idea of being overpopulated, right, or overpowered. So right now, the Eternals. Again, something really fun and exciting to wait up for, just not really understanding what they're going to do. Because like I said earlier, like if someone was telling me like, fuck yeah, the Eternals are finally getting a movie, I'm going to be like, yeah, you're full of shit, dude. Like you don't read comics. Because no one that reads comics is like, yeah, I was waiting for this. No one's been waiting for it. But like I said before, the trailers and everything, they look fantastic.
I am ready
the MCU has done no wrong. Even though like What If was fucking bonkers, fucking Loki and Wanda was crazy as fuck. They're just doing that in regular shit that's not even, quasi $1 million company or a show. And they're about to release, of course, a new group directed by a person who's Oscar award-winning director and is about to drop some really interesting history on the MCU. Can it work? Yeah, I mean, what's next? What do we see after the Avengers? Like, it's like I look at people who are the knowers, the comic knowers, and then the comic people that actually read the comics, and I tell them, well, what's officially next? Like, where can it go?
Yeah.
And the thing is they need to expand more to bring in more of the universe.
Yeah.
So, and if there's anything that they haven't done is they haven't explained the history. If you want to bring the mutants into the universe, or into the cosmic landscape, the cinematic cosmic landscape, you can't just have them pop up.
I think that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah, because if they just popped up, it'd be cheap writing. You'd be like, oh, really, bro? Like, that's how they brought in the mutants? But if some way you find out by chance, like let's throw a curveball.
Okay.
And let's say when Kang created the single timeline, what if it was during a part of the world that it was like a Secret Wars and all these different superpowered beings were around and the Adam Warlocks were there and the Celestials were there and they were all going to battle and they were a bunch of OP characters that needed to be removed from the table. So you have a guy like Kang come from the future and use this technology and remove the heavy hitters from the landscape and put everybody normal back on one timeline and just save everybody in a world that's easily like fixed
Yeah.
because there's no one to really fight against him. So of course, like if you have it to be like where Kang during the first incursion of the world being collapsed, like deleted the mutants from people's consciousness and history.
Yeah.
But the Eternals comes out and brings it in. That would be a really interesting concept. I mean, of course, that's very far-fetched. I don't at all believe that's what the Marvel Universe is going with. But could it be done that way? Yeah, dude. Like they could, just to kind of expand on the idea that the mutants might have been there, but they just didn't. They got deleted for the moment or erased from our history. So I don't know.
I 1000% think that the mutants are just gonna get dropped right in our laps. And honestly,
I kind of have the same vibe.
but I mean, judging from what I'm hearing and the way that they're gonna do it, I'm not gonna mind it, dude. Like, I'm not gonna mind it.
I mean, yeah, because right now we have a situation that's brewing, which is what Kang, the man at the end of time, kind of was like, "Hey, bro, like I was here for a purpose.
And
like
you're
I was
fucking with it.
stopping all the
And you're
fuckery that was
yeah,
going on
you're
from the
fucking with it,
multiverse.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
about to unleash this Sylvie and Loki, and you have no idea what you're gonna do. And now we have this whole like a frail glass type multiverse that's literally on the edge of breaking. You know what I mean? Like the What If show, like it was bonkers.
Yeah.
Like the
yeah.
What If show was bonkers. You know, the Sylvie Loki story was, of course, bonkers too. You know, for them to now explain that, yeah, there were different timelines, but now there's a whole idea multiverse, like,
Yeah.
and it's all correlating. Like sooner or later, those spider webs are gonna run into each other.
Yeah.
And then what do? Marvel, of course, has an answer for that in the incursions and in Secret Wars and Battle Worlds. They have an answer for that in the comic books. So that is not far-fetched from what it can be doing. My thing is, I think we talked about this a couple times on the show, is I think with the combining of the multiverses that Wanda's going to do is I think that's how they're going to establish that the mutant kind is a part of the universe.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is when and if she decides to combine the multiverses, is that going to bring like the Fox universe X-Men with the same actors over? Or like, are we, you know what I mean? Because that's the thing. Like they have a set of actors from that series. Are they going to bring them in and just coil them into this? Because
honestly, I don't think I don't think they know what they're gonna do, because I don't even think they know what they're gonna do about some of these actors that they've used previously in some of these Marvel shows that were on Netflix. So they're bringing some of them in, they're not bringing all of them in. Like I don't even think they even know what they're gonna do about that. So I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I really hope Bertinol, was it John Bertinol, or was it?
Oh yeah, the Punisher.
I really hope he comes back as a Punisher.
Oh no, 1000% he's coming back.
Fantastic. Like, that is like perfect casting for him.
I think he had an interview.
And Matt Murdock did good too.
Yeah, I think he had an interview where he said it's not about when. I mean, it's not about if, it's just about when and how they're gonna bring him. Yeah. So amazing. he's almost guaranteeing that he's.
I think the gentleman that played Luke Cage did really good too.
Yeah.
I think he did very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see them.
Or what is it? Iron Fist kind of.
Honestly, no. I would like to see them all in the MCU. To be honest with you, I think every last one of those shows, even Jessica Jones, I think every show was fucking amazing to me.
Yeah, Jessica Jones is good.
So I wouldn't mind seeing them in the MCU. Like, just bring them all over. If you're gonna bring one of them, bring them all.
If they did bring them, would you want to see them like in their own film, or would you want to see them?
I would not have them like. I wouldn't really accompany them, because I think it would kind of take away from their characters. I would like kind of introduce one or two MCU characters just to show the continuity and just show that they're part of the MCU. But ultimately, I would just keep them away until some like all hands on deck threat came, and then bring them in. But I wouldn't just have them casually running around with other Avengers or mutants or anything like that. I would just keep them by their own.
You know, on a side note, I really thought it was a missed opportunity to not have Daredevil show up in Avengers Endgame when they're traveling and they go back to New York.
Okay, yeah.
You don't end up seeing him kind of like in the background, like fighting some Chitauri, like kicking the shit out of something. And then all of a sudden, like he hears like the Tony Stark and Captain America from like the future, and he's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, were they just talking about coming back from the future? What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wanted to see like,
well, you never know. You never know. I mean, we did see when they did go back in time to the war in New York, or the Battle of New York. What was it? Who did we see with that was giving us the explanation of the stones and letting us know?
You saw the ancient one.
Yeah, the ancient one. So
Yeah,
like
the ancient one.
we could
She was there
see.
kind of like chucking shit
Yeah,
out and knocking dudes
that's what I'm
out.
saying. Like we can see that happening at some point. So you never know. You might get your wish. That'd be dope.
That would be really, really great.
Hell yeah.
Going back to the Adam Warlock story, I really think that there's a couple of storylines that they could follow.
Okay.
What's really, really cool is they brought in the Age of Ultron story. If he continued to win and prospered and did this stuff, they didn't do the one where they sent the strand of Ultron into space and he conquered the other alien mechanical people and became their king and tried to conquer the universe and whatnot. In that story, Adam Warlock does play a really big role, but I would like to see Adam Warlock if they do like a Nova, if they introduce Nova in the story.
Okay.
Because then for sure we're gonna get something close to the Thanos, I want to say initiative or Thanos revelation or something, where in that story he's fighting the Annihilus wave. Right? Annihilus is this really bad baddie that comes from, I want to say like the negative verse or the cancer verse, like one or the other. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's one of the verses that's like a destruction universe. And he's like this big plague of bunch of insect villains. And he's a pretty strong dude. He owns this thing called the Cosmic Rod, and it fights at a cosmic level. Like he just has this really badass weapon. But he's like a conqueror also. And I think having, like, if you bring Adam Warlock to the Guardians of the Galaxy, I think having Nova be a part of the Guardians and Pip the Troll, it's a really great introduction for those characters. Also, Moondragon, who is Drax's daughter, become involved with the Guardians too. But have it to where they do the Cancerverse story, where in that story, they couldn't find a way to stop Thanos. So Peter Quill and Nova trapped themselves with Thanos in the Cancerverse, and they just fought, like, because you can't die in that universe.
Okay.
They just fought each other for like eternity. But they trapped themselves in a universe. Like, I thought that was a really great storyline. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that have been asking for a Nova story. We got hints and teases of it. And of course, Guardians 1. Guardians 2, not so much. But then in Infinity Endgame, I know the Russo brothers talked about bringing in Nova to be kind of like the dude that comes in instead of the Nova Corps to help him at the end.
Yeah, I heard
They
that
wanted
too.
to bring him in as an individual, that like all of the Nova Corps gave their power to one individual.
To one
And
individual.
he's like their Power Ranger.
Yeah.
So you were going to see like a Nova guy fly up, and it was supposed to be like Richard Rider, which would have been a very cool yet bad play for such a big character.
Why do you say that?
Well, Richard Rider deserves his own film, or at least like his own like backstory to where you really know who he is. Richard Rider in the comic books is like a legend in the Nova Corps, and in the world, he's like the Hal Jordan of the Marvel universe. He's like the dude that's like 100% always sacrifices himself to get the job done. He's very much like Marvel in the comics. Everybody loves Marvel. And of course, an evil version of Marvel fought Adam Warlock also from the Cancerverse. So like you could tell where there's like so much history in the Adam Warlock character. But like I said, his biggest stories were those that dealt with Thanos. Like they always had Thanos in somewhat of the story. And the only other one that wasn't as important but still is when he created the Infinity Watch, which is something that we talked about on the show, I think a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the Illuminati.
Yep.
So for them to bring in Adam Warlock and do like an Infinity Watch where he's putting everybody together. And the reason why being that we have Marvel What If, where you had an Ultron just snag all the stones and start the universe. Like you have to kind of get the stones in check again. Like now you have all these characters that are just like, oh, we'll just bring all of these stones together and it's good. I can conquer the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So now people know after Endgame, the Earth itself used the Infinity Stones. They know Thanos used the Infinity Stones. Humanity itself in the comic books and even right now is still very infant in exploring the vastness of space.
Mm.
But everybody in space has the technology. That's why Peter Quill's out there doing, his fucking all his weaponry, can put a work on Iron Man. And
Yeah.
Iron Man is the most advanced dude on the planet when it comes to fighting technology. And here we are with, of course, the Wakandans too. They have, vibranium, but vibranium is, of course, cosmic.
Mm.
It has its own mythical cosmic entity powers, which is insane. But Peter Quill in the movie was tanking Iron Man just on little gadgets and trinkets here and there with little, and the same thing with Thanos. He's fighting Thanos and he's using the same shit he used to steal the soul stone on that one part, or the power
Yeah.
stone.
Mm-hmm.
So you could tell that humanity itself is still very far behind. So right now we know that in space, Rocket Raccoon by himself in a ship was able to find the power level for not one but all three Infinity Stone blasts, and was able to register the power levels.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that anybody with that type of technology, like Rocket has, which is everybody else in the
Mm-hmm.
cosmic landscape, can dictate the idea, knowing that Terra, our planet, is out there doing some crazy shit with the Infinity Stones. That means it's going to be a race for the Infinity Stones. Like everyone's going to be out there trying to race for him. And remember, they wouldn't have been destroyed in the concept of destroyed if Thanos didn't use them.
I'm over the Infinity Stones. I think they're doing all they can with it. It's time to go on to something else.
Well, that's the concept. They need to write that into a corner or a lockbox, right? And you saw it happen right now off of What If, where someone grabbed the Infinity Stones again and just did what Thanos did, and but it harder. And then not only that, right after that, they were going to give it to Killmonger and have him do another Infinity Stone story. Like, it's just a constant race to get these stones.
Yeah.
So what you do is you have to do the Infinity Watch, which is a great idea, where someone out there is going to get a stone, and Adam Warlock's going to be like, here you go. It's your job to protect this. And they're going to give it to someone that's not like just some random dude. They're going to give it out there to like a Gamora, or they're going to give it out there to someone who's capable of defending it. The other character that's been very introduced that they could bring in is, of course, the Higher Evolutionary. The Higher Evolutionary is another interesting cosmic character. He could be a really good baddie. If not, he could be like an Splinter. I guess he's like a Master Splinter kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's just a dude that's fascinated with evolution, and he's managed to like make all of these characters. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Adam Warlock had a villain from him that was called like Man Beast. And like I said, Adam Warlock is like this Jesus character, and Man Beast was like this dude that was supposed to be Satan.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just his opposite. We know that Adam Warlock is not officially getting his own undisputed film.
Yeah,
we're not getting an Adam Warlock movie. So we can tell that he is going to be like a character that people have to babysit. Like, he's just going to be a part of the MCU. So do I think he's going to be all that important? He'll play his role like Captain Marvel did, but I don't think he's going to be like a super huge character.
I disagree with you 1000%. I think
you really feel it.
I think they're gonna push Adam Warlock to the moon, dude. I think this is gonna be their next. Like you said, I think there's gonna be their next Carol Danvers, their next OP player, and they're gonna make sure that it's like known across the board that this guy is the guy that is gonna take down whatever future baddie is gonna be out there. I think.
I don't know how to feel, because like I said, they're not giving him his own standalone film
yet. I mean, it's still early. He's just been casted. He's gonna be coming up very soon in the Guardians movie. So you never know, man. You never know. I think that if the Guardians 3 movie is a hit, we will get an Adam Warlock standalone movie. Honestly, I think we're gonna get it anyway. To be honest with you, we're gonna get one regardless.
Okay.
Because I do think there is a plan for Adam Warlock. There's been talks about this guy being in the MCU for years now. So I think they were just waiting, and there were even talks about him being in this Infinity arc. The Infinity, like both the last two movies, he was speculated to be in it, like so much so that the Russo brothers had to actually say no, Adam Warlock is not going to be in any of these movies. Like, this is a thing. People were waiting for this. So
Yeah, they really pushed him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things like people that have read the comic books had been talking about Adam Warlock since the first Guardians.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And that's the same thing as like I was telling you, Pip the Troll, right? Pip the Troll is this character that's a part of the Guardians, but he's more of an Adam Warlock friend than a Guardians character. And what's really crazy about Pip the Troll is they reference him in every movie. And they reference him through the little troll doll.
Okay.
That's through that, like in the ship with Yondu, and like there's like a little troll, and then like in the first movie when he opens the gem, the ball with the gem in it at the end, and it's like the troll doll. That's supposed to be a reference to Pip the Troll, who's kind of like this small redheaded troll, but he wears like Scottish kind of like Irish clothing. So he looks like a little Celtic dude. You'll find a picture of him. You'll be like, oh, I get you. He's wearing a lot of plaid all the time and stuff. So he's been referenced throughout the entire series. And his powers is he's a teleporter like Nightcrawler.
Okay.
But he can do it like throughout the galaxy. So he's like super strong. But yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. I think it would be really, really great for them to somewhat bring in. I've been a really big fan of I mean, the Fantastic Four has great stories with them. Yeah. But the Annihilus story is the Annihilus story would be a really fantastic story. That would be really, really cool. That's like galaxy ending situation.
Okay.
And then being that we're dealing with like a multiverse now, you can make it to where like there's a fissure in the universe, like a hole that opened up to another multiverse, and that's coming through. And but man, I say this all the time when it comes to these movies, like, dude, like, when is the planet ever going to be safe?
Never.
Like, it's almost like every week some shit's happening to these people, man.
I mean, it's real life.
Yeah. Oh man, fuck, dude. I would hate to live on that world. I really would. And that's got to be like my biggest kind of like concern when it comes to the comic book is like the comic book has like world ending and cosmic ending events like every week that you're kind of like, yeah, you're kind of like, whatever, dude. Like,
yeah.
Like last week this happened, this week this happened. Like you're kind of like, but you know what? That's kind of like the problem with the Marvel universe. Like that's
a very interesting point. That's a very interesting topic. Like if you're just a regular human living
on that world,
in any of these worlds, what's your life like? Yeah. Like what type of life are you living where you're constantly in fear of your planet being
I'd like
destroyed?
To see a comic book
like
that,
your fucking like, galaxy.
That'd be cool to see a comic book based on that, where like it's like of a normal dude, no powers, no nothing, and he's just living throughout these events, like just trying to like, his work still wants him to turn in his, his work, and he's got to buy groceries and cook for his family for dinner, like, and it goes to that meme where the one that's like Captain America's using your car to fight this guy, but you still have to drop payments on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like maybe that would be a really fun comic book to write for.
Hell yeah, bro. As a writer too, just to write some shit like that.
That'd be really fun. I think it would be a fun story. I'd read the fuck out of that in a heartbeat. I think it'd be so great. But yeah, man, I really think that the introduction of Adam Warlock is interesting.
What about the casting? Do you think this is a good casting?
Oh yeah. I think
Will
what's
Poulter.
His name? Will Porter?
Poulter.
Yeah. Poulter, right? Yeah, I think he's great. I think he's gonna play the role he plays. Like every time I see him, I just remember that you all got paid or whatever. Like
yeah. I
remember that meme, and I remember like, you know what, like this guy, he's got some acting chops on him. Yep. For me, it's not as big as a call when they introduced Christian Bale for Gore the God Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that one I'm really fucking excited for. Yo, but do you think just on what you know about the comics and the characters and stuff?
Yeah.
When do you think he's gonna come out in the MCU? Like what film do you think he'll be in? Like, do you think Guardians or do you think Thor?
No, I think if I had to put my money in all my money on one movie, it's definitely gonna be Guardians. only because he was introduced in Guardians. It's been teased in Guardians. So it's only right that he comes out in Guardians and
Because that's been my biggest concern ever since the ending of the MCU, like from the Phase 3, right? Is that you have Thor, and we know he's 100% going with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing a Thor 4 and a Guardians like right at the same time of each other.
Yeah.
But you're going to have your definitive Thor storyline, and you're going to have your definitive Guardians storyline.
Okay.
And I think that was why they made the whole like who's the captain of the ship kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, well, what's going to be the driving factor of these stories? Like, one, you have the Guardians of the Galaxy that, of course, deals with the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. But then you introduce someone like Chris Hemsworth playing Thor alongside the Guardians, and it's like, well, what do you do? Well, I mean, the first thing that we can probably assume is that the introduction of Beta Ray Bill. Because Beta Ray Bill is more of a cosmic character than an Asgardian Thor character. Right?
I do, but if your movie isn't going to be centralized, if it's not going to be centralized around Beta Ray Bill, I don't want him in that movie.
Well, the thing is
you're not gonna do him justice. And
so
you're gonna
the crazy thing about it is, like, the story and the concept of Beta Ray Bill is very weird. The reason why I say that is because Beta Ray Bill himself does not have. Hi, John Lover. What's going on? Welcome to the podcast, man. Thank you for jumping in on YouTube. Beta Ray Bill himself does not really have a definitive storyline.
Yeah.
Like, it's been only in the last, like, maybe like 10 years that they've really done some effort to build his character more. But the original story was, of course, Thor is in space. He hears a group of people being assaulted in space and wants to help them. He flies in there, and Beta Ray Bill himself is kind of like the deemed protector of the situation with his race of people, and he's trying to protect them. Yeah. And he fights Thor, and in the process of him fighting and risking his life and everything he has, he punches Thor, drops the hammer, and he picks the hammer up. And Thor's like, whoa, like, you're worthy too? Like, that's super cool. And at the time, Beta Ray Bill's like, well, fuck it, it's just a hammer, I'm gonna kick your ass with it. Like, he doesn't know about the mythical part of it and the idea of it being worthy and whatnot, which is, of course, a really great way for them to do the idea of the worthy. They bring that whole loop back and the comeback to the idea of the worthiness of the hammer, because the entire thing about the story coming up with Thor 4 is going to be the Jane Foster storyline.
But yes, I'm saying, where are you going to have time to put
that? And that's why I think, like, Beta Ray Bill would probably more than likely come out in Guardians more than a Thor story. Do you see what I'm talking about?
I do. And you know what? I don't want to shit on that idea, because I do have a little bit of faith in James Gunn, but I have even more faith in Taika Waititi. So I think they can get it done, I guess. I just would rather it come in a future.
I think that's what makes it hard, is because you know that both actors and directors are going to do great, but it's like, how do you do it with both of them being storyline on the outside so close to each other?
Yeah.
Like, so close to each other. Like, so we know for sure, which of course a sad thing is the Gore the God Butcher story, right?
Yeah. And again, there's going to be so much going on right now. Like,
Gore's a really hardcore character.
Yeah.
And the only thing, of course, that I'm scared of is the Black Blade, right? How he gets the black sword, the Necro sword, which is his weapon, right? Which is his cloak and all that stuff. He gets it from two gods fighting, and one is mortally wounded, and then he kills that one and then takes their weapon.
Yeah.
And we know for sure that Hela pretty much had the Black Blade in the last movie. So if we break it down, we know that Hela was left fighting Surtur, two gods fighting to a standstill. Hela, being that she gets her powers from Asgard is 100% destroyed, so she has no way to get her power back. Mm-hmm. So she will fight Surtur because his only purpose is to fight
destroy
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And then his purpose as as a what is it? Not philosophy, but a premonition is pretty
It's
much to
over.
an end.
It's over.
That's his only purpose in his lifetime. So Hela will fall to the planet where Gore is. She will be mortally wounded, and she will tell Gore, who is the outcast of his people, uh, pick me up, slave or human or whatever you are, and fix me right now because I'm a god.
Mm-hmm.
And then he will kill Hela and take the Black Blade and absorb it into his system. And that's where he will start his reign of going around and killing gods.
Mm.
And then the story of Jane Foster picking up the hammer wasn't to shit on Thor or the hammer being picked up by anybody and girls are better and blah, blah, blah. It was the idea of knowing that humans are more humble and caring, that we would be better gods if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because we are more
worthy.
Yeah. Well, in the sense of worthiness, it's just more empathetic. We're more empathetic towards people, and we understand the idea of suffering.
Yeah.
And the thing about the gods is there's logic behind it, which is like the story of God himself, where like the best episode would be like Futurama, when Bender has the little people like living on his chest and he's floating through space.
Okay.
And he starts kind of like dwelling into like helping the people out, and then they start killing each other, and then they wipe each other out, and he's like, oh God, no, like I didn't want that to happen. Oh no, like, you know what I mean? He like kills the people because then the people believe they favored and that they're God's people and blah blah blah. Like there's a whole like psychological aspect to the idea of like, should gods help humanity like do their thing? Because then it's like, well, what is the statute of limitations on how much you should help? If someone's out there and they're hungry, do you give them a burger? And then if someone out there wants steak, should you give them steak after that? Because it's, you know, you could do it anyways. Or do you just say, well, you know what? I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to let these people do it because that's nature. That's the concept, is like humanity's sympathetic. And as gods, you can give us the power and we'll do whatever it takes to help everyone out. But then you unbalance everything. And that was the concept of why Thor needed to come back and be Thor. Because Jane Foster as a god was very empathetic towards everyone and she wanted to help everybody. She stretches her out super thin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that she's barely a mere mortal, like she puts her body through hell and it's killing her. So it's a very interesting storyline in the concept of how they're going to do a Gore the God Butcher against Jane Foster. Yeah. That's my thing, is Gore the God Butcher played a huge prominent role against Thor in the storyline. And I hope that in some way, maybe Guardians will introduce Gore, and then you'll see Jane Foster have to deal with Gore in her story.
Okay.
Because if he meets... so what's very interesting is Gore has attacked Thor throughout his entire history. So there's this really crazy part at the ending of the comic book that he ends up fighting young Thor, current Thor, and then All-Father Thor, which is the old man Thor.
Okay.
Fights all three of them at once. Right. And it's because there's like a pull where there's like a future variations that can pull each other through time, and time travel. It's fucking stupid. Like I'll always tell people it's stupid. But when Thor was younger, Gore the God Butcher found him and tortured him for a super long time. And then he escaped during the Nordic times. And then, of course, there's Gore the God Butcher fighting a regular Thor during our timeline.
Okay.
And then, of course, in the future, Gore the God Butcher left Thor as the last god, and he constantly torments him. Like he attacks him like once a day.
Just rant.
Just fucking with him, dude. He just tortures him, but he killed every other god.
Every other god he
destroyed. He created this thing called the God Bomb, and he got like Hephaestus, which is the guy from the Greek mythology who creates weapons. He found the god that creates bombs. Like the guy literally is a god of bombs, and he literally told the guy, "I want you to make a bomb that only kills gods. It only resonates at that frequency, and when I blow it up, I want all the gods to be dead, including yourself." Yeah. And he got him to build it, and that's what was very cool, but very sad at the same time, is that was the essence of like the coolest part when it came to Thor in Endgame is when he smashes Mjolnir and Stormbreaker and it shoots. Well, in Gore the God Butcher story, when he's fighting Gore, he absorbs the Black Blade And when he has a black blade, he smashes the two hammers, which is both Mjolnir's from his future side and
Okay.
his present side. He grabs both of them and he has them both as weapons. But they're both Mjolnir's. I don't know if that's a difference. Because in the movie, it was Mjolnir and Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker, yeah.
Right. And he smashes those and it creates a cool lightning bolt. But like in the fucking comic, he grabs both and it creates like this like ginormous explosion, dude. Just tears of black coming out of his eyes. It's an amazing shot. It's really, really great. It's really, really great. But Gore the God Butcher is probably one of the most prominent arcs in the Thor storyline. And now they're kind of casually pushing it over to Jane Foster, which a lot of people are kind of like, well, that's shit, because Jane Foster, she has her own story and that deserves to be its own, you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. And again, this is one of those situations where it's gonna be hard for a comic book lover to understand, like to get on board with it.
Yeah.
I do lean more towards the normie side. And just for face value, you're gonna get what's the guy's name? Playing Gore.
Oh, Christian Bale.
You're getting Christian Bale, and
playing
then you're getting
Gore the God Butcher.
Playing God, Gore the God Butcher. And then you're also getting Jane Foster being played by
Natalie Portman.
Who
is the original character of Jane Foster.
Face value, sign me up.
Amazing.
Sign me up. I don't care what you call it, whatever, I'm all for it.
In this situation, when it comes to the comic book readers, I'm probably a small handful of people that are excited that they're doing the Jane Foster story.
Yeah.
And I've told people in the past that they were going to do it because they were always referencing Jane Foster. I have my roommate, she'll vouch for me in a heartbeat and tell you like, yeah, Chris has been saying that they're going to do it because they kept referring back to Natalie Portman's character all the time throughout the whole movies. It was always reference. Where's Jane Foster? Oh, she's over here doing some amazing things. Or where's Jane Foster? Oh, we broke up and oh, that sucks or whatever. But they always reference her. They never let her go.
Even as recent as Endgame, right? Even as Endgame, when Thor is explaining like the Infinity Stones and where his past, he brings up Jane Foster.
He brings up Natalie Portman's character when he's crying and trying to explain. It's there because it's going to be a factor. That's the way the MCU does it. So it's very cool to see that they're going to bring her character. But you know what? There is a part of me that thinks that Adam Warlock, there's a part of me that wants to say he might come in at the ending of Thor 4. And that the idea is when you have Jane Foster's storyline, Thor goes on this kind of like journey to find himself because he becomes the unworthy. He becomes Odin's son. They call him Odin's son. And he goes to go find himself. Like he goes to go out there and he loses the hammer. Jane Foster picks up. That's how she becomes Thor in first place. Yeah. That's after the Gore the God Butcher fight scene when Gore tells him, you know, as guardians and yourself are not worthy, you are not gods. And he loses all faith in himself. So like that whole entire, you know, Thor part 1 of him realizing that it takes him to be humble and to be understanding and empathetic to be worthy of picking up the hammer. He loses that effect because he doesn't believe in himself, because he's on the verge of not believing in himself already, because he already considers himself that to pick up the hammer takes a large amount of worth, and he's always questioning that. And they've pushed on that he's always questioning that idea. And even when he's Fat Thor and he reaches out for the hammer and he closes his eyes, he's like, yes, I'm still worthy. Like even in that concept, he belittled himself thinking that he wasn't good enough. So I think that we're going to get that little tipping of the hat. He's going to lose that idea. And at the ending of the Guardians film, or at the beginning, is when they kind of like, they'll introduce Beta Ray Bill, who will accompany Adam Warlock a lot on his journey in the Guardians of the Galaxy. And they will then leave Thor somewhere in space for him to be Odin's son in space.
Gotcha.
Okay. You get me? Because the thing is right now, the character that seems misplaced is Thor. Because Jane Foster, we have a story. We have a definitive story. Thor has Thor 4 coming out, which we already assume he's going to be the main actor because, you know, he's Thor. But that's because we conceive it as that's his name. And even though in the comic books they've complained about that, Thor himself is not his name. He is Odin's son. He's an entity. This is the way they kind of protrude it. but Thor is a symbol. Thor is a symbol, and Jane Foster picks up that symbol. When he becomes unworthy of the hammer, he becomes Odin's son. But in the cosmic landscape, Thor is not really with the Guardians as much, but Beta Ray Bill is a cosmic entity that's always with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So like you have a placement for Beta Ray Bill. You have a story for Thor to be with the Guardians if he saves Beta Ray Bill and gives him a hammer, but then he will then bounce out and then be somewhere in the Thor story in the background doing his own thing with Tooth Gnasher and all that stuff, his goats and stuff. But the idea is if they introduce Beta Ray Bill, you can't have Thor and Beta in the same movie for too long because it's literally two characters of the same writing, same power set, same strength, same weaknesses. Like they're just through and through the same thing, except Beta Ray Bill is a horse or whatever he is. You get me, right?
I get it. I would just personally, I wouldn't like to see that again. Beta Ray Bill is he's a fucking champion that we got a Easter egg in the last Thor movie. So it's like, don't give me 5 minutes of him and then just have him take a fucking hammer and then fly away. Like I need some substance there. I need like a backstory. I need some like screen time with that. Like, and then when am I gonna see him again? Like, am I gonna see him in the next a
really good way to put this is I always tell people if Beta Ray Bill deserves to have a better origin story, what would be the reference of the origin? Because the only reference we have of Beta Ray Bill would be the Thor story, right? Which is when he goes in, he hears a distress call in space. There's like a ship that's kind of like, I think they're being attacked by the Brood or something. He shows up, and then Beta Ray Bill in his regular alien form gets into a fist fight with him, right? And then from there he starts tanking and standing blow to blow with Iron Man, which is a telling of tales for him to stand toe to toe with Thor with the hammer.
Thor, yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's already like, wow, dude, good job, dude. Like that's pretty good. And then for him to be so empathetic and to be so sacrificial to himself to save his people and risk his entire life without like a second thought or like a doubt. He's able to pick up the hammer. When he picks up the hammer, he starts going at Thor. And Thor's like, whoa, stop real quick. And he's like, what? And he's like, yo, you picked up the hammer. We're like brothers or something. And he's like, no, not really. But it ends up being where he's like, dude, I need to introduce you to my dad. This is so cool. Like, no one's ever done this. So he takes him to Odin. And Odin's like, well, I mean, the only thing we could do now is have you guys fight to the death. And Odin's like, you guys got to put it on each other. And they fight each other all the way to the end, only for Beta Ray Bill to stand victorious. And when he's there, Odin stops the fight before he kills Thor because that's what he asked for. And he says, you know what? Like, through your efforts, you've shown that you are worthy. I will now deem you a champion also. Here is your hammer. And he gives him the little brass version of the Stormbreaker, Stormbreaker's introduced now in the MCU as this giant hammer, which is great, but I would like them to bring the little small brass one back. That's such a beautiful one. I love the way that one looks. But we have him back. We have him there. Like, you have this opportunity. And then from there, he kind of is like, you know what? Like, I get it. Like, thank you, Odin, Allfather. Like, I will not disappoint you. He becomes like the first member of the Thor Corps, right? And then him and Odin, or him and Thor, then have this camaraderie of brotherhood. And, you know, it wasn't until recent times that they finally kind of like brought it back, recent, where they kind of like ran it back. And it was very interesting for them to kind of like, it's very interesting to see a character like Beta Ray Bill get so much love, even though he doesn't have a lot of backstory unless you look at the last like 10 years.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because before, when they actually wrote him, like, he didn't get no backstory. He got a couple of comics and then that was it. But everybody was just so cool with the idea of him picking up the hammer that was pretty much all the story needed.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, if they were to do some iteration of the origin of Guardians to Beta Ray Bill, where they go and they help him, they get a distress call, which is what they were doing in the other films, which is how they found Thor in the first place. They found him with a distress call in Infinity War, remember?
Yep.
So for them to go out there and do the same thing, only to find Beta Ray Bill, it kind of differs there because there is no more Odin. That means Beta Ray Bill would necessitate necessarily
necessarily.
have to go back and see Valkyrie for her to get a hammer, because right now she's Odin. She's
Yeah.
the All Mother. But then that would be for her. I mean, who is a warrior in the same place that he was? Maybe she knows of him for her to get an enchanted, for him to get an enchanted hammer also.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Like, there is a really cool opportunity for them to, and then of course, like for yourself and other fans out there, it's a really great way for them to introduce Beta Ray Bill without it being too complicated.
I just don't see where the time, like, and I'm on board with every theory that you've had so far.
Yeah.
I just don't see the time in that though. Where are they getting this time from in a 2-hour feature film? Where are they
Well, I
getting
mean,
time for that?
first, we don't know how and when they're going to introduce Adam Warlock. Right? And other than that,
But you know that he's coming. So he's either
Yeah.
gonna, I mean, you're either gonna get him, and I think we can fairly, narrow this down. You're either gonna get him in Guardians or you're gonna get him in a new Thor. So that's one of those movies they're taking off the board because you're gonna use up most of that time to introduce Adam Warlock.
but the cool thing is we know, like, in the sense of both of those stories, like, we have a definitive idea that Thor, like, we kind of have a story for Thor already. You know what I mean? But the Guardians story, like, I have no idea what they're going to do with that. Like, no idea. Even if they introduced Adam Warlock, I could just imagine it being like Baby's Day Out. Like, Adam Warlock's brand new to the world. He goes against the Sovereign. He blows up the planet or destroys the people and tries to get away from them. He's going to fly through space in a little loincloth. You know, he's going to be doing his own thing. And then the Guardians find him. So there has to be some way that he kind of pops up, right?
If
I mean, maybe
if he's a centralized character in the movie, I'm all for it.
yeah, I just don't know how, man.
If he just pops in for 5 minutes and just says, "Hey, I'm Beta Ray Bill. I came for this hammer," or "I'm here to fuck shit up," and then just bounce. I mean, honestly, the normies, we would probably be fine with that. Most of the people that would have a problem with that are the people that are really into the comics. They're the ones that are gonna have a problem with a big character like Beta Ray Bill popping in for 5 minutes and then just dipping.
Like,
They're the
well,
ones that are gonna have a
well,
problem
that's
with
the thing.
so.
I don't think he's going to dip after. I think he's going to be an official member of the Guardians
Okay,
because that's why they
he's
made a
gonna be
reference to the Asgardians of the galaxy.
So he's gonna be introduced as
he's going to be
okay.
he's going to be like the stand-in for the Thor character when Thor leaves.
Okay,
you see what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm saying they can't have both characters in the film. So, like, my thing is maybe even it goes like this, because we know that Beta Ray Bill gets Stormbreaker. Stormbreaker's been introduced in the MCU as the hammer, and Thor still has that hammer.
Yeah.
So maybe in some way, by chance, at the very maybe middle of the film or the ending of the film, Thor decides to leave to go find himself, and he becomes Odin's son and tells Beta, "You know what, dude, you've done very good.
Hold on to this.
You take the hammer. You're Stormbreaker now. You help them out." And then he gets Stormbreaker, which he'll end up getting the big one, which I guess that's cool. I would kind of prefer the little one because that's, but then maybe that's the thing. Maybe later on he takes Stormbreaker, and we saw it in in Endgame where even Captain America was able to wield Stormbreaker.
Both, yeah.
He grabbed that shit, even though Thor was like, "Peter Quill, you can't have this weapon because it'll fucking destroy the facet in your mind, will explode," or whatever the fuck. Captain just welded that shit like it was nobody's business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe in that aspect, it's the cosmic idea of what Thor has with the hammer. Maybe that's really not what it is. And maybe it's not enchanted. It's just a way that he can put his powers through, and then it shoots out through the Stormbreaker. But then maybe later on in the comics, like, he gets Stormbreaker. It's big, it's chunky, it's got what's his name? Groot's hand on it.
Okay.
Maybe later on he goes above the Asgardian Council and they deem him worthy, and they transfer the thing to his essence, and the hammer ultimately changes to the small brass one, and he becomes the official Beta Ray Bill of the comics. Maybe at first he'll just be the alien dude. He'll be like Krunk, or what's that guy's name? The one that was with him. Like, he's just a dude.
Like,
yeah. He'll just be like a dude. Like, I could see that where he gets the hammer and he's still like in his native armor from his people or whatever. But then later on, when he becomes the worthy and gets his hammer, he grabs it and he gets the wings like Thor, and gets the red and blue Thor costume with the cape. Like, he gets all of that. but once the hammer becomes enchanted by Odin's power. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe it'll be Thor who gets the Odin force after he becomes worthy, like, of being king, and he grants Beta Ray Bill that power, and he enchants him like the way Odin did.
I can see that.
Maybe that would be it. I mean, because that's the thing. Beta Ray Bill has better storyline with Adam Warlock. There is story with him, a derived story with him in it, and yeah, I know that there's parts too, because there was as a matter of fact, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, so for a lot of people that don't know, Beta Ray Bill actually has a love interest. Like, he has a girlfriend, a very serious one. That's Lady Sif. Lady Sif, that's Thor's friend, the chick that's always with him, right?
And we just saw her. We just saw her recently in Loki.
And we just saw her in WandaVision. Oh no, Loki, right? Loki. And the character, she's still around, and we understand it. And not only that, she's one of the only warriors that didn't die in Hela's thing. They killed all the Warriors 3, remember? It wiped the whole entire Asgardian culture out practically. Remember? And I thought that was crazy as fuck too. So that's just on me. They killed the Warriors 3, Volstagg and all the dudes. That was wild as fuck. But Lady Sif and Beta Ray Bill have a mutual love interest in each other, and they both have a really interesting story. But what's even crazier than that is the first time that Thor and Adam Warlock meet in the comic books, Adam Warlock kidnaps Lady Sif to marry her. Like, straight up, pops up, teleports in, grabs her.
You're coming with me.
Yeah, straight up. This is the way shit works in the universe. You're gonna be my wife. Just grabs her and bounces out, and then of course Thor goes after him, and that's how they meet and they fight. And then later on, he's like, "Bro, you're not supposed to do that. That's not the way you fall in love with." Oh shit, my bad. I thought this was.
I didn't know.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Beta Ray Bill and Adam Warlock. That's the way they kind of meet. And I don't know. I mean, there is opportunity since we do have like. So what's cool is, like, since we do have Thor in a Guardians story, that gives you potential to start mixing up the Asgardian characters and mythos and all the people they know with the Guardians universe. So like Lady Sif coming out in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, not too far-fetched. Maybe even ran into each other like throughout the cosmic landscape when Sif was doing her fucking cool Secret Service shit when she's out there being the Black Widow of Asgard.
Yeah.
Because that's why I kind of consider her, right? And that's why she's still alive, is because she's out there in the cosmos somewhere. And she's going to mess around with a lot of the cosmic entities. Like, she's going to meet a lot of these like Guardian Galaxy, Sylvester Stallone characters and Novas and all these other ones. So, maybe that's the way they introduce him. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, like we're saying, like, it's like you said, we don't want a 5-minute story when it comes to Beta Ray Bill, but we do want some depth.
Yeah. And
the only person that's kind of like the part that's kind of weird is Thor with the Guardians.
So then, all right. So now let's say we subscribe to this theory that Beta Ray Bill is going to show up in one of these two movies. Now I present to you the question: which one would you rather see him in? Would you rather him be in the hands of James Gunn or Taika Waititi?
I mean, both of them do fairly well, man.
So which one would you pick?
But even though I'm not a big fan of subscribing to him, I think the James Gunn story. Okay. I think he'll end up making Beta Ray Bill more of a fun-loving character. Well, that's the thing. Taika Waititi did the same thing with Kronk, right? Or Korg or whatever.
Korg, yeah.
He made him like a super fun-loving character. Like, you watch him and you just dig him. But he made him completely stupid, like uber dumb. Like you watch him and you're just laughing at him because he's that stupid.
Yeah.
And him and Thor, since Thor is almost like practically like the what if Thor. Like, when you see him all fat and hanging around with him playing Xbox, Fortnite and stuff, like, you kind of imagine Thor actually being that way. You know what I mean? Like, that's what kind of sucks, but it's fucking great though. It was fantastic. And then Chris Hemsworth plays comedy very well. So to see what I want to see, but that's the thing. I don't want to see a comedy version of Beta Ray Bill. I want to see it like if this dude was right off of like the Gladiator movie, but he's just surrounded by a bunch of idiots. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what I think James Gunn is going to do very well with, is because Beta Ray Bill is going to be like this hardcore, like gung ho 80s fucking action hero, like
Yeah.
trying to do good and be hardcore, like a Superman, like just straight up no comedy in him, just straight work.
Yeah.
And they're gonna put him with like Drax, and they're gonna put him with like a Peter Quill, and
Yeah.
even Thor, who's like dumb as shit. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna put him in that group, and he's just gonna be constantly like, dude, what the fuck am I a part of?
I like that. I do see that, but if you tell me that you're gonna give me a continuation of the last Thor, which Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU
Oh
movies,
yeah,
and then you're gonna add Beta Ray Bill, and you're adding Christian Bale, and you're adding fucking Natalie Portman, bro. Give me Taika Waititi.
yeah, they're about to expand. Oh yeah, Taika Waititi. I mean, because he's been able. I mean, but then again, James Gunn did very well with the Guardians
Yeah,
movies.
no, he did. But I mean, and I hate to do this, but the last Suicide Squad, it didn't really move me, dude.
You
Like
know what? And I was just about to say that, like,
it didn't really
you
move me.
know, even right now when I mentioned it, like the source material to the characters and using Starro and doing all this stuff, like, I don't think. I think James Gunn, what he likes to do is he likes to take the story and then kind of like delve into his own shit
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tweak it, and it sometimes is either a hit or miss. And like with the Suicide Squad film, like for what it was good. It was funny at the
I
surface.
enjoyed
But
it. No, I
yeah,
enjoyed it.
like
Yeah,
at the
I enjoyed it.
surface, it was good. But when it comes through and through story wise, I thought it was very crap. Like
Weak.
I told you
Yeah.
before,
It was weak.
I think seeing Starro taken out by a Harley Quinn with a spear in the eye, being that he tanked the entire Justice League once,
Mm-hmm.
like see him go down like that. I'm not really. I don't know, man. I didn't dig it too hard. I didn't dig it with the way he did that. I think that Starro could have been used in a way better way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think you're right. I think Taika Waititi would be a way better choice when it comes to the storytelling part.
Yeah.
I think he does very well in the storytelling part. So yeah, but then again, they're super close too, man. Taika Waititi.
I was
Like
gonna
he
say,
wasn't
like,
very
this is,
far.
yeah, I will agree with you. It is kind of hard to pick one of the two because they are kind of like similar but different in their own right. But I just think the visuals and the shots that Taika Waititi did in Thor Ragnarok just it sold me. It sold me, and I would just have more faith in it just looking visually more stimulating and appealing to me if he were in the new Thor movie.
If he was in the new Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I think having Taika Waititi attack it would probably be a way better idea. Um, but man, we're just gonna have to see. I mean,
We're gonna
both
see. Yeah.
directors have the
Hopefully.
opportunity, huh?
Yeah. No, hopefully we're right that he'll be in one of those two movies. And honestly, I don't think we'll lose either way. I just think
Oh
for
no,
like
hell no, man,
just
we're not
yeah,
gonna lose.
just
No,
as a
great.
preference, who would you like to see in control with that character? But I don't think we'll lose either way if he's in either one of those movies.
Yeah, because I just feel like you know what? It's very interesting because I would say like consider the way it would have been if Taika Waititi had done Guardians of the Galaxy instead.
Oof.
You know what I mean? Like James Gunn really did bring in like a really satirely flavorful storyline.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think James Gunn did an exceptional job with both of those movies.
Mhm.
I don't even want to even fathom anybody else taking control of that.
Yeah.
Just leave that the way it is. It doesn't need to be fucked with. I would just give him, if you did a fourth Guardians of the Galaxy, give him that one too. Like, just let him ride this one out. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't fuck with it. Leave it alone. That's his shit. He might have gotten the Suicide Squad wrong, but this will probably get right. So just leave it the fuck alone. Taika Waititi, he has his own lane with the Thor shit. Now, as far as I'm concerned, he can run with it as far as Thor is concerned. Like, leave that shit alone too. Because the first Thor movie, the second Thor movie, I could do without personally.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course they weren't very accepted
Yeah.
in the Marvel. I think they're
That third one
literally
though,
some of the lowest ones.
was fucking amazing to me.
Oh yeah,
And
Ragnarok.
yeah, Ragnarok was
Yeah,
awesome.
Ragnarok hit it right on the button.
And I mean, I do hear a lot of people say it is a fake Avengers because he did have Loki and he had the Incredible Hulk and he had Valkyrie.
Well, yeah, but they even made fun of it when they were like, "We're gonna call ourselves the Revengers." It's
The
because that's
Revengers,
what
the
Thor
Revengers.
was like. oh shit, this is what those other people did. Maybe we should do the same thing.
Yeah,
Like, you know, it really correlates with the idea that Thor is being inspired by his trips to Earth and the
yeah,
humanity, and like, you know, he's starting to like get that idea that they're not too bad or whatever.
yeah,
It's cool. Like I thought it was pretty solid.
yeah.
I actually thought it
I
was
just
pretty
think I think honestly, Taika's version
take
of his take of Thor is refreshing.
is refreshing.
Like it's refreshing, and again, you add that with you give me Jeff Goldblum in the fucking movie, I'm gonna like it anyway.
Oh
See,
yeah.
so like like you give me that, it just hit every angle for me, bro. So, but I know
Yeah,
you had
that's a really good
your
point.
problems with it, but I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and that's because like even like when they did the Grandmaster, like the Grandmaster is very he's very watered down compared to the way he is in the comics.
Okay,
In the comics, like he's literally the contest of champions, like dude, like, and that's like the biggest fighting tournament in the world, which is what we
and
talked about
yeah,
with Shang-Chi, right?
yeah, yeah.
Where we were talking about how that was gonna be maybe like a nod to what they were gonna do, where they were gonna do like a big tournament
Hmm.
or whatnot, and they were getting Shang-Chi to kind of be like, you're gonna teach the Avengers how to like hone their fighting abilities.
I'm so disappointed we didn't get that version of the movie, like that tournament style.
You know
I
what?
wonder what happened.
I don't know. I mean, I was kind of taken that they did the whole let's go to another realm and defend this gate. And there's some like weird foxes and animals and dragons and you
Yeah,
know, because it kind of correlates with the idea like, okay, cool, where is this realm?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, people that read the comics know about different realms in the world, and right now, I believe a lot of us are thinking it's like uh Kwai Long, the one from Iron Fist.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're all thinking like it's a part of that heavenly city of the nine cities or whatever. And I mean, that would be cool if they kind of made it to where like Shang-Chi and Iron Fist and they kind of like they kind of brought together all of that Asian reference into one realm.
Hmm.
You know, that would be really cool because a lot
That
of
would
the
be.
Asian mythology kind of dwells almost close to itself. Dragons and demons and ogres and all of this stuff dwell in that mythology. And if
Yeah,
it all came from one realm, that would be really interesting for them to kind of correlate. So, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad.
that'd be dope. That'd
That
be
would be
dope.
really cool. Yeah, man. But overall, I think the idea of Will Poulter playing Adam Warlock, I think it's a great idea. I think the introduction of Adam Warlock is interesting. Uh, do I am I excited? Yes. Am I for sure what they're gonna do? No. Like I'm not for sure, and that's cool.
It's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool. But like for me, it's a little nerve wracking
It is.
because, of course, I tell people all the time, what a time to be alive when it comes to like all these comic book movies and all these things coming to life and coming to fruition, right?
Absolutely.
But the only thing that sucks is like we read a bunch of comic books sometimes for no reason, and we invested in these characters for not a lot of reason either.
Now that point,
And
I will understand. You know, your
and
points
and I
because
mean,
that sucks.
for me and a bunch of collectors and all this other stuff, like we've put a lot of money down, like for characters and stories that we've really loved and dwelled into,
But you still
character
have
development.
that. Like I get that, and but you'll still have that. I don't know if there is a space for both though. You can still have your, you know, favorite comics and arcs and stories that you love, but then just get a different take of it if you can still appreciate it.
If you can still appreciate it.
Like I don't know if that world, if that can, if there's a world where that exists, and that sucks.
Well,
Because I wish there was a world where that
well,
exists.
with the idea of that and the concept of that idea, that kind of like it does very well in the sense of sidelining us into the next subject,
Okay.
which will be our last talking point, which is a really big news thing that hit this week.
Mm-hmm.
For some odd reason, this is historical, and if people out there collect comic books, this is probably the time that you want to buy this comic book. And it's not even on the
Sure.
essence of it being like a first release or anything, but it's just the fact that it's just the equivalent to when Captain America died.
Mm-hmm.
It's the equivalent to when Superman died. to where it made enough
Of a splash.
a splash in the news that CNN and NBC and
It's everywhere.
all of these people decided to say, hey, you know what, like, we're gonna cover this motherfucker. And that is the idea that Superman is now bisexual. What an interesting time in comic books to be alive. I don't even know where that even like came up as a concept for us to, like, you know, for us in the comic book community to even need to be discussing, right? So this past week, it came out that Superman is now bisexual.
His son.
Yes. Okay. So that's the problem with it at first, which is a lot of the news articles and a lot of the news companies are not explaining that past the title. So what they're doing is they're literally quoting it as Superman being gay or being bisexual, not gay. And a lot of people are upset, which we can tell that, you know, there's a huge line of people that either are for or against it. Right now in the comment section of most things, I see that people are against it. And I kind of feel like this is always in line with the cancel culture aspect.
Do you see, or are you reading exactly why they're saying they're not for it?
I mean, I've read a couple of them. I've read a couple of like comment sections and articles of why people are against it, and it's for the fact of like they think it's Superman. That they've made him like right in like into that aspect of being SJW or woke, and that's the problem because this whole community has been kidnapped by these people that are trying to do this movement, and they're the ones that are in the forefront pushing it. Where the moment comic book industries have the opportunity to try something, they automatically get destroyed by opposition. So that's been my biggest concern. I know that there's a lot of people, especially people that read comics, that don't like to see this kind of stuff happen to characters, right? Unless there's efficient backstory, because then you get the opportunity to say if you're for or against the character, especially when it's an original character. But the idea is they've hijacked the name Superman, and they're trying to run with it this way. So right now, John Kent, which is the son of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, has come out as bisexual. He is dating a Asian kid that's very Korean pop looking, K-pop. That's everybody's compared him to a K-pop person. But the story of John Kent, like, it's still fresh. He's been recently created in the comic books in the last decade. The only prominent thing that he's been in is a comic book called Super Sons. And then there was when they were bringing in Dr. Manhattan into the comic book realm, he is kidnapped by his grandfather, Kal-El's dad, Superman's dad. And they kidnapped him when he was like, I want to say like 10, 11 years old. And he came back like 16, 17 years old in like a span of like 3 months. So now he's older, more, you know, adult-like and all this other stuff. Beforehand, he was younger than Damian Wayans. And that was like a really fun conversation that they would have when Damian was like, I'm older than you.
And that was the like Super Sons, right? Yes. Yeah, that was the Super Sons. That was the duos. Yeah, right.
And that's when he was, I want to say 11 or 10. And he wasn't old enough to be in the Teen Titans because he wasn't a teen yet. And Damian would always pick on him about it. But John at the time was already bigger. And of course, he's Superman's son. So he's stronger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was always just really cool dynamic between him and Damian. And then all of a sudden, the comic book got canceled. And he gets kidnapped by his grandfather. And blah, blah, blah. Then from there, they automatically, DC jumped into making, when John came back, the next son of Metropolis. So he is now the official Superman. And I think that's where the readers that read the comic book are a little on the tad bit of the disappointment side. because of the fact that there hasn't been enough character development to establish if he's bi or not.
Okay.
And they really didn't delve into that until like maybe in the last like 3 comic books that he's into people in a relationship kind of mentality.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like it was kind of, yeah, this is in the essence of it's kind of casually thrown out there.
Yeah. Okay.
And now
I can understand that.
it was a lot of people think that there was a little bit of a rush to where him and this person just automatically hooked up in like 2 or 3 comics. But then again, if you think about the sense of comic books, they're written every 2 months or 1 month that you get an episode.
Like
So there's enough time to sit on it, but then the writing has to be the important part.
Yeah.
To how it's taken in. And yeah, right now it's not being accepted by a lot of people. So I don't know if they allowed it to cook enough. I don't know if they allowed it to be explained enough.
Yeah.
But me, on my own personal take, I've always been for or against and stuff like this. I've kind of always sat in the middle.
Yeah.
When it comes to these things, like, I mean, we've talked about it before, like the gender swapping or race swapping of characters,
yeah.
things like that. And 100%, I'm really disappointed with this, and not because of the fact that they've chosen to make the person of SJW culture or of anything like that. What it is they've made him bisexual. And the reason why that's disappointing is because that is a write out for if it doesn't work. It's a cop out, man. It really is. And if people don't see that in this community and they don't speak up about that, like, why not just, if that's the way you want to put him in comics, just let him be in that reign. Let him be in that reign. Write the stories. Let it be relatable to people. Yes, I do understand that the bi culture is a culture itself and needs to be represented also. But the gay community, right, which is its own culture in the SJW movement, there's going to be a point in time, and I guarantee it, if it does not make sales and people are upset in the comic books, that they're just going to have Superboy date a woman. And when they do it, they're going to either make him single after, or he's going to date her for a really long time, or they're going to take it and they're going to do it like the whole, look, he's just like his dad. He met a news reporter and he's got the perfect life and he's going to have a perfect kid one day.
Yeah.
And there you go. All of this talk of the SJW movement and Superman being gay and into people of his own gender or whatnot, all out the window. All out the window.
I honestly, I'm kind of with you in the sense that that's the one thing that stood out to me, is that this is a cop out, because the first thing that I thought of when I heard this was Robin being bisexual.
Yeah, because it's right on the tails of that.
1 month, actually. 1 month after we found out that Robin was bisexual. And then not only that, but then we got 2 months ago that Loki is bisexual.
Yeah. Well, so in a way, yeah.
Well, no, that's what he
is. That okay?
No, he's bisexual.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he said that in the show that he goes both ways.
Which the same people that didn't claim that he was a bestiality person either, because he did have sex with a horse once.
Sure. So I'm in the middle. I don't really care for Superman, to be honest with you. So I can care. I don't want to say I can care less. Or I couldn't care less. But what I will say is, if you're going to go down this road, like, just make him gay, because to me this sounds like a cop out. It sounds like you're appeasing to a demographic and into a culture, and then you're not really committing to it. You're not really marrying to the idea. At any point when it suits you, you can just make him date a girl. You can just make him have a relationship with the girl and then totally forget about the other aspect of his sexuality. I think that if you're going to go down this road, you stick to it, and that's what you do.
100%.
So that therefore, whatever representation you are, well, actually, I guess this is still hitting a certain representation.
Yeah.
The bisexual community. But I just think that in a storytelling manner, this is a cop out.
Yeah, I think I'm it's 100% behind that too. I think it's you
can see the play. You can see the play. It's not like you're gonna take this bisexuality status and do something with it. You're not. I don't think that's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't think in one issue you're gonna have him with the male, and then in the next issue he'll be with a female. I think you're gonna pick and choose for a long time to keep it one way or the other. I just think that's a cop out. I think that's lazy writing, and if you wanted to have a certain representation, just make them make them gay. Make them gay, and there goes your representation. You can make them have a relationship with the man. And because honestly, I don't see that representation in the course of 4 months. I've gotten 3 bisexual characters.
Mm-hmm.
Not one of them are
and
gay.
all of them already being historically developed to not be in that sense,
in that light.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I'm not as familiar with the comic book
realm or the world.
I don't know of any openly flat out gay of stature, of a Robin that's been around for 81 years, or the statue or of a Loki. You know what I'm saying? I don't know of any characters to that magnitude. So I think it'd have been cool if you'd have got this one, just to be just flat out gay. Like that would have been.
And this is that thin line talk, and this is what I'm always telling people about is like
it is. You gotta balance that.
The companies themselves have to do more. And what do I mean by do more is they have to respect these cultures enough to give them proper representation. And not just bite at the first opportunity for them to flip a character and be like, there you go. How do you feel now? You feel good? Like there's Wolverine.
And then do nothing with it. And then do nothing with it. Yeah, and then do nothing with it. That's my only problem.
And there is a small amount of people out there and that would be like, yeah, we're happy, but it's not enough. Like we still need more. We still need more. Give us more, because we need to be in charge. My biggest concern has always been, okay, for those that are like me, right? That when we complain about these things or we talk about these things, it sounds like we're against the movement. Okay, fine. To me, myself, my question to myself. Okay, well then when? When is it okay for the companies to do it? If you're telling me, ChrisP, if you're telling me yourself that you don't accept this character, well, in what time would you expect it? When do you think would be the proper? And that's a hard fucking question to ask.
It's a valid question.
Because it's like, okay, cool. Like Superboy, not a lot of stuff going on. Oh, Superboy, because that's who he is, right? Everybody's saying it's Superman, but that's because they don't read the comics. And that happened just recently. Mm-hmm. And he was originally Superboy for a while, which was Super Sons. He was just the son of Superman, which, I mean, if people are complaining about him being bisexual and into men, Connor Kent, who is Superboy that wears the black shirt and the red S and the blue jeans, that dude has 2 dads. His dads are Lex Luthor and Superman. Like he's a clone of both of them, and they have dialogue where he talks like he has 2 dads and he has to make both of them happy. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, without being forced, Connor Kent is relatable to people in that essence.
Yeah.
And it's just a different type of storytelling. It's not the traditional way that us in our world know of 2 males being the father of a child. And it's a really great story. Like Connor Kent is a super awesome Superboy, super well respected in Teen Titans. I mean, dude, he's been everywhere in the comic books. And a lot of people don't take into consideration, but you want to know why? Is because people are not making a big thing about it. Since nobody's being like, oh, well, what do you got against a guy with 2 dads? Oh, 2 dads. No one's talking about it. So being the fact that right now Superman's into dudes. Mm-hmm. Oh man, dude, look at us. We're winning. Oh, look at the other people that are against phobia or whatever. They're losing. No, like it's just confusing. People are upset because they're confused. Because for a long time, that company, it's almost like when Chick-fil-A does their like fucking awareness months for no reason, and you know they're cash grabs.
Yeah.
Like it's like Walmart. Walmart does a SJW fucking W sign, and you know it's a cash grab.
Yeah.
It's like Disneyland, fucking rainbows everywhere, cash
Yeah.
grab.
Yeah.
They don't do it because they care about the culture. They do it because they know at that moment it's gonna possibly make them some cash.
And make headways. And I think that to me, when it comes to this specific situation, that is my only problem with this announcement, is that it's just like every other situation in the past couple months. I don't see these companies doing anything with it. You're just making a splash, and then what?
Yeah.
Then what? What are we
And what?
gonna get with this information that you just dropped on us? Like, are we gonna get a storyline where John Kent is gonna have a full blown bisexual lifestyle?
Relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, like are we gonna get that story arc, or is that just gonna be a footnote in his biography, in his bio now?
You know
So then
what?
what
And
was
that
the,
was
what was the
because
point?
like someone had asked me, and of course, like I have a lot of knowledge, right, of comic books and stories and how people can write. For some reason, and this is just like topped off of my head, I was 100% thinking what they were gonna do is like in the future, like Robin and Superman, well, Superboy are gonna date,
Okay.
and that would be like instead of them just being where Superman and Batman are like always best friends,
Yeah.
now they're like we're married, so now we're a family. Like the kids are
Gotcha.
married or whatever. And then for some reason, I was like, yo, what if they actually use this like Superboy or Superman, John Kent, being that he's an alien and his body is different from ours because he's an alien.
Mm-hmm.
What if he ends up getting pregnant? Like, and he's like a dude that has a kid, like a baby. And I was like, I don't see it far fetched that they would do some shit like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nah, no, I get what you're
Because
talking
he's an
about.
alien and they've never really like explained like how Kryptonians can have babies and so yes, like Superman and
Lois.
Lois had a child. That's how they had John. But like they've never explained it. Well, what in the aspect of it that Kryptonians can also be pregnant? You know what I mean? Like the male. Oh man, dude. Like, can you
That was,
imagine if that was a twist? Like Superman's pregnant.
I mean, that would probably be along the same lines of, the same splash that we just got right here. I mean, again, that would be them taking something that's not part of the lore, part of the history, and then just interjecting that, for whatever reason. If you want to subscribe to the fact that they want to have a cash grab or whatever to make some type of salacious headline news or whatever like that, then you can say that. But I personally wouldn't understand that one. This one I can understand because you're trying to appeal to a certain
Demographic.
demographic. Yeah, you're trying to appeal to or give representation to people that may not have representation.
Yeah.
You just fucking around and making Superman pregnant. That is just like
But you can't
like that's just some wild shit. Like,
yeah, like in my mind when I was talking to friends about it, I was like, dude, what if they end up trying to do some shit like that? Because there is a small amount of the culture out there that do correlate with that aspect where they're trying to make it seem like since they are transitioning from female to male,
mhm.
that now in that aspect that males of that culture can have babies. And now you have it nowadays where, fucking Times magazine and science magazines are like, oh, well, yeah, men can have babies. I mean,
there's
technically,
just there's
a
been so
certain
much.
type of men can have babies or whatever. Like,
There's
there,
been
it's a word. It's a war of words.
it's just been so much time that has elapsed since our introduction to Superman and the Kryptonians to just now all of a sudden try to put that into
Yeah, I mean,
to
but
put
dude,
this
I
that because to me that's a fact that we would have known by now. That's not just something you drop 100 years after the existence of this race, that now the males actually can produce children.
I don't
Like
know,
that's
man.
just weird. That's just weird to me. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe there is a situation where DC thinks that that's something that is that needs to be done or something that needs to be represented. I don't see that happening because it would confuse more people than bring light to
Yeah, that's
any
I
then
100%
and
agree with that.
yeah, that would just confuse people more than bringing light to any type of topic that you
Oh
think
yeah.
that you're touching on. I don't see the necessary like there's no reason for that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was something that came into my mind earlier this week, and
I like the way
after
you
kind
think
of
though. Like that's some bugged out shit. Like, could you imagine a world where fucking like the Kryptonians could fucking have kids,
yeah, like they
the male
become
ones?
asexual or sexual, right?
That would be some wild shit. That would be
But
some
right
wild
now,
shit.
and the way the culture is going, you don't see it far fetched.
No, I mean, again, I don't, I mean, my brain can go there. I can, fathom, and I can even actually probably assist somebody in how to write the shit. But I just don't think like if, you know, if I were to bet my money, I would just think that would be. Cause honestly, how would somebody even pull that shit off, dude? Like, I would
Yeah, I don't
not.
know.
I wouldn't
It
even put my money on somebody that was given that task. I'd be like, you know what? I quit. I quit. I'm
I
not
don't know. They
doing
would
this.
just need a
Like,
specific type of person that kind of like that tips their hat to that type of mentality, that type of science, or that type of culture that's going on right now. That needs to be brought or brought out to the limelight more. Where the idea that men can also produce children the same way a female can. I
yeah.
mean, it's I understand that culture. I've seen it before, and I respect it because those people are out there still choosing to have children, and they're finding ways to produce and whatnot.
Do you correlate your comics with science fiction?
You have to. I think you have to.
Okay.
I think you need to because the majority of it has to be science fiction. Because if it's good storytelling, it's not going to be in the sense where it needs to be relatable. It needs to be a
Good
a,
story.
a story. Yeah,
Written well.
it needs to remove us from our
Written
a
well. Yeah.
fictional timeline.
Okay.
It needs to
Yeah.
get us out of what we're dealing with right now. And if it's not sci-fi, like it's going to
So
be too
you
relatable
put
to the
so
people.
you put comic books in the sci-fi category
Like a
for
genre,
the
yeah,
most part. For
yeah.
genre. Okay.
Because even if you think about it, like once you introduce the cosmic landscape, and that's already sci-fi.
Okay.
So like the moment you introduce the Guardians of the Galaxy, it's sci-fi. You know, the
Okay.
Eternals, sci-fi, being that it deals with celestials and stuff like that. So yeah,
All right. There was just a question that just popped in my head like right now. I just because now we're venturing into hardcore sci-fi
sci-fi. Yeah,
when you talk about that
yeah,
that's some hardcore shit. So it's like yeah.
yeah. Straight up. Oh yeah. And the one thing that I was gonna ask you was well, before we go, because we're already coming to our 2:30 mark. Actually, I thought
Okay.
we were gonna be done around 2. So I mean, we've hit all our major marks. What did you think about this week's Dave Chappelle stuff?
Oh, I actually touched on it with my boy
D?
with my boy D on our weekly podcast. I listen. I liked the special.
The special?
I do understand how people were taken aback by it.
Upset?
I can understand that. Um and I honestly, let me just side note, just sidetrack really quick. I think that's what this world is missing is just empathy for people. Yeah,
Okay.
I might not agree totally with it. Maybe I might not understand it, but because that's not for me to understand. You know, but I can see how it could have been difficult for people to finish it. Um, but with that being said, my only issue with the backlash, and Dave knew he was going to get backlash. There's no way you're going to tell me that he made or he wrote down that stand up and didn't think he was going to get some type of backlash from it. There's
Oh
no
yeah,
way.
he knew
He
it.
knew it was coming and he was ready for it. Um it was his last episode, his last stand up on this current deal with Netflix. He knew what the fuck he was doing. My only problem with the backlash is this was more of a commentary of his previous stand-ups.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't really differ that much.
everything that he had to say and every point that he made and every topic that he had, he's already spoken about. You know his stance on these specific topics.
Yeah.
Again, this is more of a commentary of the backlash from the previous stand-ups. So if you weren't really feeling the last stand-ups, and if you weren't
You're
really
probably not gonna
feeling
like this one.
if you weren't feeling the content in the last ones and you still watched this one, I'm not exactly sure what you were trying to gain from it, what you were hoping to get from this stand-up, because whatever it was, I can assure you, you weren't going to get it. This is the guy that walked away from millions and millions of dollars because he
Oh,
didn't
during the Dave Chappelle show.
want to bend the knee, and
Yeah.
he felt as though something was wrong. This is a guy that once he makes up his mind on something, he stands on that shit, and he's gonna die on that hill. He's not gonna give a fuck. You have to understand that we've been watching this guy's movement now. Yeah, we might not know who he is personally, but we've been watching him move for decades now.
Oh yeah.
So we know what kind of person this is. If you had a problem and felt that he was um just being a negative person towards your culture, and you didn't have to watch it, because whatever you were looking to get other than ammo, you weren't going to get. And if you were looking for ammo, he made sure that you had enough of it.
Yeah.
So that's my only issue with the outrage of this stand-up special, is that he gave you exactly what you were looking for. And under no circumstance, I'm sorry to anyone that's listening that had a problem with the stand-up, under no circumstances are people going to cancel Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah, it ain't gonna work.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, the dude's
Sorry to tell you. I'm
the
sorry to
dude's
tell you.
an idol in the fucking comedy world.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's very weird because I guess it's like the change in times, right? I think Dave Chappelle, being who he is and what he's done throughout his life in the comedy world and everything like that, is a modern day Jerry Lee Lewis, or a modern day, what was the other guy that he used to work with? What was that black dude? The one with the Richard Pryor.
Okay.
Like, every generation needs a comedian who frankly doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that in a culture that we live in right now, everyone is casually trying to find their footstep on fighting against racism
Mm-hmm.
and neo-Nazism and all of this like KKK stuff.
Yeah.
And Dave Chappelle was like the fucking front runner when no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
He was out there talking mad shit to, like, you know, about racism and stuff like that in the Dave Chappelle show.
Yeah.
Creating characters that no other person would even attempt to try.
But it was all right then.
But it was all right then,
It was
because
all right then.
at that time it was a bunch of either non-African American, non-black people having the opportunity to laugh with a black person at those appropriations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the moment this man uses his skills to talk about other things and just poke fun of him, not actually like say that people need to hate him, just kind of poke fun.
Mm-hmm.
The entire culture of that wants to stand up against a black man that's independently being out there, you know, being a successful person.
But isn't that inclusion though? Like, isn't that what you want as a culture, as a society? As, yo, we can laugh at you just like we can laugh at ourselves. We can laugh at all of us. Like, you're asking for equality, you're fighting for equality. Like, and as a minority in this country, I have a front row seat of what that looks like.
Yep.
So it's like, I get it. And if you want equality, then you should be able to be poked fun at just the same way. There's stereotypes about me that get poked fun about me, that they're just funny, and we laugh, and we all have that to come together on.
No. I was giggling because Doomsday Clock Sucks left a comment that says Redcon Doomsday Clock, which is the comic book arc where they introduced the fucking what was it, the Watchmen characters into the DC universe. It was not very It wasn't very accepted in the comic books. That's really funny. I like that hashtag. That's a really great hashtag. That's funny as fuck. Sorry, I didn't mean that, Brian. I
Oh
thought that
no,
was
no,
a
no.
good.
I was just gonna say it was just a very interesting point that I heard you brought up over the past couple of days that it's just weird how if a person, just not even a culture, just as people, if you are asking for equality, then when a comedian goes up there and tells his jokes, you're gonna get these jokes too. That's part
Yeah,
of it. You're part of the jokes now.
yeah. It's
That's
part of
it.
the entire set.
Yeah, it's
And
just
yeah,
that.
like as a comedian, sometimes you go up there and you say some shit and it upsets people. And for what it's worth, like the person will end up saying, "Hey, you know what? Like I didn't mean it to be accepted that way." Like, but you don't go out and try to cancel an entire person's life, like just because it doesn't correlate with what you think is right or wrong or whatever. Like, there's a
Yeah.
point to it where it's like, hey, you know what? Like the same people that are out there that are trying to cancel Dave Chappelle are the same people that back up Sarah Silverman. And Sarah Silverman is one of the fucking most horrible people in the world, and she blackfaced like a bunch of times. You
Yeah.
know, I don't like Sarah Silverman,
But
but I'm
that's a
not about not getting her fucking, stopping her from eating or
but
working her out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
so some people didn't have a problem with that, but they have a really big problem with Dave Chappelle and the way that he speaks about the trans culture and the transgender community.
it's
And
an interesting subject, and it's something that I still need to see the comedy show, and I want to kind of do some research, and I wouldn't mind us like sitting down and having a discussion about it. Maybe
did
we could
you?
bring D on the show.
So wait, you haven't watched it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Wow.
I'm telling you, like, I just literally saw everyone talking about how he's gonna get canceled, and then I see Dave Chappelle, and I'm like, you guys are dumb, bro. You're not gonna
He's
cancel
not.
this.
He's not getting
There's
canceled.
no
And
way.
Netflix is telling you. And Netflix is they're having threats from their employees from walking out. And
Oh yeah, that was weird as fuck. So I saw that
no, I mean I kind
like
of
during a
dig it.
meeting, one of their employees tried to like rush in during the meeting and do some shit, and they fired her
No,
ass.
I dig it. I mean, listen, this is the complexity of this whole situation.
Mhm.
If I dig it. If you guys are that pissed off, stand on it. The
Yeah, do
same way
something.
the same way that Dave is standing on what his comments are. And if you guys are and if you guys are feeling a certain way about it, then fucking stand on that shit. Let the people know that you're upset. Again, I can see how people can be offended by this within the first. If you can get through the first 5 to 10 minutes of this shit, I salute you because it gets rough.
Oh, it's
It
real crazy.
it
It's
gets
real
rough.
Kentucky Fried Movie kind of thing, or
Yeah,
what?
it gets rough, and I would just be naive or stupid to say that people shouldn't be offended by this. But I have, as a black person in this world, I have built up a tolerance for certain shit that I can just stomach through and get to the end. And it came full circle. If you were able to deal with some of the jokes that he purposely meant to piss you off, if you can get through that, it was actually a pretty decent stand up.
Oh, okay.
So I
Shit,
mean,
I gotta watch it, man.
yeah,
I
it's
definitely have
it's
to watch it because Dave Chappelle is always like I said, he's a milestone of stand-up comedy. But the thing about Dave Chappelle is like sometimes his stand-up comedy is not a stand-up comedy.
yeah,
It's
I know what
more
you
like
mean.
a dad telling you that you're
It's
fucking up.
more of like a commentary of the times. It's more of like a
Well,
yeah,
even in the
exactly. It's like
essence of it, it sometimes kind of comes off as like when an elder's talking to you and he's telling you like you're fucking up.
and he's dropping
Like, yeah, he's
jewels and
dropping knowledge on you, and it's not the
yeah.
knowledge that he needs your opinion on.
So
He's
this
dropping
one,
knowledge in the sense like,
this one is a little bit different. And I told whenever I spoke about this stand up, this one was more. It kind of leaned away from that type. This was more geared towards the comedy now. Like it's a little bit different from his previous more recent stand-ups. This was more
interesting.
trying to get a laugh as opposed to sitting down with the cigarette and just talking to people.
Okay.
This wasn't one of those. This was more of like an original comedy show that was just kind of really edgy. And it
Yeah,
was
now I'm
it
gonna have to watch it. I'll probably watch
yeah.
it this weekend for sure. I'll probably watch it this weekend.
Yeah, it
But yeah,
was
man.
it
Okay.
was it was it, wa- and you know what? And I love that it opened this much dialogue about people, and I love to see people stand on what they believe in. I love these type of situations when they come up and people say what they mean and mean what they say. If you really felt offended by this, then fucking try to cancel his ass. I don't think it's gonna work, but try to fucking cancel his ass. Stand on that shit. Don't forget about it the next week and or whatever. And if you want to defend them, then defend them. Like I love these type of situations because number one, it opens nerves that people don't like to talk about. It exposes nerves that people don't like to talk about, and it creates a dialogue that I like to have with people.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it creates talking points, man. It gets the community talking, and it brings awareness to the situation.
I don't give a fuck about the Kardashians, and don't try to talk to me about some other like current event shit. No, this is the type of shit that is going to move forward our people. Talk to me about that.
Yeah,
I would love to
that's a
have
good point.
I would love to have those type of conversations. I don't really give a fuck about much else except for things that are going to move forward as a people. So
Yeah, I get you. Well, yeah, man, I'm totally gonna check it out.
you should.
Yeah, definitely. Fuck yeah. All right, guys. Well, what'd you guys think of the show today? Guys, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. It was such a great show. Our talks, what did you guys think about it? Have you seen Bright Samurai Soul on Netflix? Are you going to check it out? Is it something that you're really interested in? I purposely think, my opinion on it is it's a great show. It's a great telling of the history of the Bright series that I really hope they delve into and they expand more. How do you feel about the casting of Adam Warlock for Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Which film do you think he's going to portray in it? Do you think he's going to make an intro in Thor? And what other parts of the MCU do you think bringing Adam Warlock into the fold is going to do for the MCU in the future of the show? And also, how do you feel about the Superman news? Is this something that you're for? Is this something that you're against? Do you feel like DC is doing this to kind of just make people happy for the moment and then try to get people to forget about it? Or do you feel like it's something they're trying to embed into their history? Do you think it's something that they care about the culture, and do you think they're representing properly? Guys, leave us comments. Let us know what you think. Guys, don't forget to add us, like us, subscribe to us on all your podcast applications, such as Google, Amazon, Spotify, all the good places. We have our, of course, YouTube. We have our Twitch channel. Guys, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. To all our extraordinary listeners. I got to learn to stop talking so fast.
No, you got there.
I want to say thank you guys so much. Brian, of course, thank you so much. I know you're in a whole other timeline. You're from the future. You're an hour ahead of us. So I want to thank you very much. And I hope that everything's going well in your region. Congratulations on your new job. I hope that everything works out super well and that you're digging it, man. And to everybody out there listening to us in the radio waves, guys, thank you so much for always supporting the show. We appreciate you guys so much. We wouldn't be here without you. And we'll see you guys again every Friday and next Friday here on the Average Boys Podcast. Friday nights live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Guys, we'll see you guys again next week, next Friday. Be good. Tell people you love them. Hold the doors for people and do nice things. And we'll see you guys again next Friday.
Peace.